All right. Good evening to those of you on the East Coast. Good evening, I suppose, also to those of you on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon Choi, host and co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited, and I am joined by
Jerome Bourgeois, co-creator, co-founder of Movers and Shakers Unlimited, and yo, Happy New Year, man! Gotta still celebrate.
Happy
Hey,
New Year, man. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to
leftover
those of
bubbly.
you. And Happy New Year to those of you that are watching. I hope that you guys had a great holiday and a terrific New Year. Now, as you know, typically we try to do this show, This Week in Review, that covers, the news bits that have made the rounds over the course of the week a little earlier in the day. However, there was a lot going on today. As many of our viewers know, there were a couple of other shows that were happening today, and we wanted to make sure we got that out to you. And we have more to come, which I'll announce or remind you of at the end of the show. Now, seeing that this is January 1st, the start of 2022, we figure in this episode we would talk about some film and some TV or TV / streaming, but at this point you can kind of just mix it all together with TV and streaming. So we have that bunched together, but we're going to go into our top five. However, before we get into the top five, I want to spend a little time, even though we don't really have time to really discuss like the nuts and bolts of why they are, that 6 to 10 in those 6 to 10 slots, that we have for film and TV. We figured we go over them, real quick before we hop into, our top five in both of those categories. So, Jerome, have you take it away? Go ahead. Oh, and actually, before we do that, I want to get into our minutes. I realized I didn't get into that, so I wanted to make sure also.
Shout out to sis.
Yes.
shout out to Joelle. Already was a New Year in South Korea a day in advance, but she's about to go on vacation. But yes, shout out to you again.
So yes, if you can be a Patreon supporter with us, if you enjoy a lot of the content that we do, and we have some cool perks in place that you guys can enjoy by being a Patreon supporter with us. So you can find the link down below. Additionally, we also have a hashtag that you guys can use, with our show. So that's TWnRMNSU, and you notice that N is lowercase. So yeah, This Week in Review, Movers and Shakers Unlimited. Obviously, if you're enjoying us now, that's terrific. However, if you're watching this as an archive episode, feel free to, join the conversation, with that hashtag. And if you're not a part of this live conversation, just drop a comment and we'll try to do our best to, get back to you. All right. So now go ahead, Jerome.
Sounds good.
6 to 10. So we're going to let's go into
what do you want to do
first.
All right. And also shout out to everybody. This is our 44th episode. So yeah, almost at 50. So that's great. So yeah, what do you want to do first? You want to do film?
Yeah, let's do 6 through 10 in film. So you're or you can do it in descending, or you can do it.
No, we don't. No, we'll start from 10. No, we're gonna start from 10. We should go from the very bottom.
So film, go ahead.
Like Cisco and Ebert did back in the day. They had their top 10. All right. Well, okay. So I'm just gonna preface this as, there's still some movies I want to see. I still need to see, and I'm, maybe this might change a little bit later. But out of everything I saw last year, I'm gonna go with that. The top 10 there, my 6 through 10. So at number 10 for movies, I'm saying Godzilla vs. Kong. Number 9, No Time to Die. Number 8, Free Guy. Number 7, In the Heights. And number 6, Don't Look Up.
All right. Cool.
And do you want to do or you want me to do
I'm
TV?
gonna go to mine. Yeah, I'm gonna get into mine. So for me, my 10 through 6 was, let me pull it up here. I had Tentacles. I had Quiet Place 2. I had Blood Sky, and I had, Free Guy and The Harder They Fall. And
okay.
That's what I had from 10 to 6 from what we got from the year of 2021.
Lots of horror films, of course, my man.
Of course. I got a couple in there. There are a couple of action films.
Nah, I gotta see. I still haven't seen some of those, so that's why. But hey, that's why we have these lists.
I will say this, guys. Free Guy is like far more fun than it deserves to be, but it's a really fun film.
It was a lot better than I thought it was going to be, and it's slightly original. It's somewhat original too. They mix other elements, but anyway, you can go into that.
Right,
but no, it deserved. All right, so now we're doing 6 through 10 TV shows / streaming, whatever you want to call it.
Yep, go for it.
All right, my number 10, Ted Lasso season 2.
Okay.
True Story, which is a limited series, but that was really done well with Kevin Hart and Wesley Snipes. Love Life season 2, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Hawkeye is number 6.
All right, cool. That's what's up. All right, so for mine, let's see. Excuse me. I had Chucky. I had Hawkeye. I had Resident Alien. I had Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and actually, I also had. Actually, I apologize. Let me scratch that. So I had season 2 of The Witcher as at number 10, and then I had Chucky, Hawkeye, Resident Alien, and Falcon and Winter Soldier. So that was my 10 through 6 for TV.
Okay. I knew you were gonna put Chucky on there. I still
have to, man.
Oh man, I gotta watch that. If it's that good,
like I said, I'm not gonna get into the specifics of it, but it's good to see a lot of like old familiar faces come back.
I have to watch that now because I mean, you put it in top 10. It must be somewhat good. All right. Anyway, so let's get to the movies. Our top 5.
All right, go for it. So your top 5 film. Go ahead.
So now we're gonna just we can go a little bit into why.
Yes. Go ahead.
All right. So just so we won't be here all day. I know everybody's still recovering from hangovers or whatever from partying last night. So so we're not gonna take up too much of your time. But we want to be a little fun reflection show. All right. So number 5, I said Stillwater. Now this is a movie by Tom McCarthy, the same guy who did Spotlight, yes, that won the Academy Award, and that was a great movie. This movie is funny. It's like I wasn't even checking for it when it came out, but I heard about how it was in the it was at Cannes, and I was just like reading about it. I was like, okay, let me check this out. Matt Damon is in it. It's pretty much about how it's slightly based off of the Amanda Knox story. It's not exactly based off of that because I think she had some issue with this movie coming out, and they were taking her story, I guess, kind of, and but it wasn't exactly her. It didn't follow everything, and I guess because she wasn't involved. But regardless of that, it's still a really great movie. Basically about this roughneck father from the South. I think it's Oklahoma. He goes to help his daughter who got convicted of murder and is serving time in prison in France. But she says that she's framed, and he's trying to help her with her case and clear her name. And it's a really great. To me, I think it's a really great fish out of water story. You have this Southern American guy, going into France and trying to assimilate and learn about their culture. And the supporting cast is really good. They have some really great French actors and actresses. I mean, the young girl in there, she's really great. One of the main female character who's French, she's really great. Matt Damon, he's amazing. I mean, I give Matt Damon a lot of credit for doing a different type of role like this. I mean, it's definitely a little bit different to some of his other roles because a lot of times I know he's playing like the smart character, the one who really knows what he's doing. He's not really from the South or just from like the non-intelligent person. I mean, sometimes he's played that type of role, like in what was it? The Farley Brothers film, was it Stuck on You or whatever? Yeah, that one was funny, but he does change up stuff, but this was specifically a different role. But I really appreciate how they, I think for the most part they shot most of this in France, and just how you pretty much get to see the French culture, at least contemporary culture now, from the American perspective, and also about you learn about the legal system too and how that works. And
that has to be interesting, just dealing with the clash of those cultures like that.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting, but also just the idea of what would a father do to try to help his daughter. And you also try to question hey, did she really commit this crime or not, or is she lying? I mean, there's a lot of different questions and layers there, and there's suspense in there, but it's also heartfelt and it's really compelling. How he ends up, well, I'm not gonna spoil everything, but he ends up staying in France for an extended period of time because he's still trying to help his daughter out and go through the whole legal system, but also he develops this relationship with this woman and her daughter. and you see the culture clash, and you see how there's the how they enjoy each other's company, and they learn from each other. And like I said, he doesn't know French like that. He learned some words, but he's also teaching this girl some English, and like just how the share of culture is really just, to me, I just thought it was fascinating. It was a little bit longer than maybe it needed to be, but for the most part, I enjoyed it. It was good pacing. There was some suspense in there, and you really feel like you're in France, and you're immersed in the culture, immersed in everything. And I always like films that try to, like, if they're gonna have some sort of maybe if there's a thrilling aspect or suspenseful aspect, or even if it's a story that's kind of been done well, or sort of, I guess, has elements that's been done before, maybe by putting it in a totally different location, and then you have that cultural aspect that adds to the story. It makes it more fresh and more and different, and it isn't like a standard. Like I said, I mean, it's funny. I wasn't that familiar about everything with Amanda Knox and her story, but also I didn't really know exactly what was going to happen, where it was going to go. So, I mean, you might be able to predict some of it, but regardless, the ride is just interesting and all, because you just care about these characters and the journey they're on, and you care about the situation that's happening, because you feel for the even though you're like, hey, maybe this girl is really innocent and something, she's getting framed, but you have you don't completely know, but at the same time, you feel for her because she's stuck in this prison in France. But then also the father, you're like, he's the only one there that could really help her, and he goes in there, and you may not agree with his whole personality and how he operates like, but he, the idea that he's gonna go to another country and help his daughter, and he has to learn this culture and learn how everything works just to help his daughter. It's like, what would you do to help someone you love? And he doesn't have the best relationship with his daughter either, so it's kind of like there's a lot of different layers there, and it's well developed. Tom McCarthy, like, he's a really good filmmaker, so I really respect it. So that's why I said it was my number 5 film. But yeah, it was a good movie.
All right, cool beans. So for mine, let me pull mine up. Take that one down. So for me, my top five film, and I'll just preface this by saying, if you guys know me, you know that I love my horror films. There are going to be some in here that are peppered throughout, just because, like, I just love horror, like, so much. And of course, I'm gonna have, like, those superheroes in there just to preface it ahead of time. But granted, with that being said, my number 5 is Army of Thieves. So if you guys recall, Army of Thieves acts as a prequel to a film of Zack Snyder's known as Army of the Dead. Let me pull it up here. 1 second. Yay, technology. But here we go. 1 second. So yes, my number 5 is Army of Thieves. As I said, it's a film that is acting as a prequel to Army of the Dead. It follows a German safecracker, Ludwig Dieter, who we met in Army of the Dead. And it's very, I would say, if you love, like, heist films, it and I love my heist films, is that it provides an element that you don't normally see, where you really kind of get into the specifics of the main character's fascination with opening safes, and it's like, it's far more involved than it would be with the regular. He's very eccentric in terms of his fascination and his, I guess you can say, like, his respect for how impressive each of these safes are. And, like, there's a great element of let me see, of the challenge that each of the safes provide to our main character. I mean, there are other characters that fill out the ensemble. So I mean, you have Nat Nathalie Emmanuel. She plays Gwendolyn, who acts as, I guess you could say, the second lead, or I guess you could say you could pair them as the main leads of the film, because she kind of like jumpstarts his journey into cracking a lot of these safes. And you have a lot of other eclectic characters too. I'm not going to get into the specifics and spoil like all the zany things that happen, but like I said, the takeaway is that it's far. I remember when they were talking about this film, and when Army of the Dead was coming out, and they were saying, "Oh yeah, by the way, we have this other like side, prequel film about this other character that's pretty cool." And I'm like, okay, like he seems okay, but like, do we need a whole movie about him? But it's actually a quite entertaining film, and that's in large part to our lead. So, and I apologize if I'm butchering your name, man. So Matthias Schweighofer, he actually plays the lead, but he also directed the film. So he not only acts as the lead, but is also the director. And his what he does, not just visually in terms of showing, making it's very easy to make just the act of opening a safe really boring, but he provides a lot of pizzazz to like that whole act. So it's very, it's very enthralling in terms of him, making his way of each of these safes that are like, one is more difficult and more intricate than the next. So you have that element too of you're rooting for him to, be able to hack or to open each of these safes, and and you had that in the back of your mind. Okay, will he do it? Is he capable of doing it? And even the chemistry that he has, the chemistry that he has with Emmanuel is terrific. And I would also say, and I'm a big fan of this when it comes to films, is just the scores. The score, like I have to buy the score to this film, because it's there's an element of it that I feel, in terms of how it sounds, I feel like it perfectly encompasses the eccentricity of that character. Like I feel like if you took the score out of it, there would be something missing from the film. And I feel like the score, on top of like the visual flair that they have with showing the act of getting into each of these safes, the score, amplifies it even further. So that's my number 5.
All right, man. Great. I'm going to have to check that out. You've really persuaded me to watch that movie now. Because I had no desire to even think about that. But hey, I'm going to take your word for it, man. All right. Okay, so this is one that I know we both enjoyed this movie, but it made my top 5, because I'm a Marvel fan. And there were 4 Marvel movies released this year. To me, this is the second best one that was released, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. And obviously, this is a pretty big movie. It was a big smash. Just to give you a quick rundown of what it's about. Shang-Chi, the master of weaponry-based kung fu, is forced to confront his past after being drawn into the Ten Rings organization. Just to, you guys should have probably seen it by now, but if not, I still won't, give you all the spoilers. But anyway, the reason why I put this as my number 4 film is, there's several reasons. Obviously, of course, I'm a big Marvel fan, so I love the Marvel movies, but what is so great about what Marvel has done is they've taken these obscure characters, or these, I call them, C-list or D-list, or, you can even go further down the alphabet, and, maybe a small amount of people might have known about some of these characters, from the comic book world, but the masses really didn't know about it. But then they pretty much upgrade and adapt these characters to the big screen so well that they become their own entity and their own version of the character that is frankly a lot of times is usually better than what was in the comics. I honestly really didn't even know that much about Shang-Chi before, even though I looked him up a little bit. I was like, okay, cool, and I got some background information, but he's one of the few Asian characters that's actually a superhero in the Marvel universe, and there were a lot of like stereotypical elements to his character in the comics, and like, you know, the filmmakers, they obviously understand that, and they made sure that, you know, that didn't translate to the, you know, they didn't take some of those elements and bring them to the big screen. But and like, even some of the characters that we kind of were talking about, like, hey, is Fing Fang Foom going to be there? But obviously, I mean, that name in itself is kind of like, you know, kind of ridiculous. And I'm glad they kind of changed certain things, you know, for the movie. And also, like I said, because this is this is the first Asian, predominantly Asian centric cast in a Marvel film, in a superhero film. I mean, it's great that Marvel's able to pass the baton, and not, you know, obviously with Black Panther breaking ground for being a predominantly African American / African centered film with a superhero in most of its cast. This is pretty much the equivalent for the Asian community, and it doesn't even matter if that's the case. It was such a well done film that, like, you know, people across all cultures enjoyed the film regardless. And I was also frankly impressed. Like, besides it being so like entertaining, and I mean, there was a lot of funny elements. The idea, like the serious parts, were done really well. I mean, I have to give credit to the director, who's also of Asian descent, Destin Daniel Cretton. I mean, he did Just Mercy, and that was a great movie. But yeah, he really did a good job in like just making the relationship between Shang-Chi and his father, who's the real Mandarin, and they even play, you know, obviously with the joke on that from from Iron Man 3. There's connections there, but yeah, just the idea of really making that character serious and compelling, and going through the history and updating a lot of the comic book elements, you know, and the organization of the 10 rings. How, like, instead of making them rings, they made them bracelets, and you know, it was a good homage to like martial arts films. I mean, he said, Destin Daniel Cretton said he was obviously influenced by like Jackie Chan films, but also like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, like putting a lot of those elements into the movie respectfully, respecting the culture, but also making it entertaining, making it fun, making it a Marvel film. But it's also its own film, because it's, like I said, it's like a martial arts, it's like a supernatural type martial arts film, and also like an assassin type of, you know, you could even say like you could say like mystical type of gangster film too, like within it. So it's like all these different genres put in one, but also it definitely opens up this new world within the Marvel universe that is its own world, and that makes it interesting, because I want to see where that continues to go and how that interacts with the rest of the Marvel universe. But also it's diverse. It's giving us a different character that we haven't seen before, and now he's going to be more mainstream now, and he'll, you know, now audiences will know this character, and he's going to be, like I said, he's moving up to the A-list characters. That's what I would say. And he's going to have his own franchise, and he's going to obviously connect with the Avengers eventually when they do another film. And it's just really nice to see that they're doing that. They made the effort, you know, Kevin Feige and Marvel, they made that effort to bring a character like this to the forefront. And I'm sure it's influencing a lot of people's lives. I mean, not just, you know, obviously, like, you know, I know a lot of my Asian American friends, like, they were proud of it, and they thought it was a great idea of how, you know, being able to see themselves in a movie like this. Because, like I said, there really aren't that many films. I mean, the only films you really see like this are obviously like your standard kung fu or action type of films. But even so, it's like, that doesn't mean it's like a superhero film. So that's the significance, you know. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great action, great story, characters. It was well cast, good comedy. And it's its own, like I said, to me, it was fresh enough and new and interesting enough to be a film that works on its own and have its own subgenre within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where it's not just like, okay, we're just doing another film that's similar to this, this other genre within it. And I like how Marvel is taking chances. That's true. They took chances with some other films this year too, and maybe, you know, didn't work out exactly the way, I mean, I thought it would, or maybe didn't. With some of the films, maybe didn't like hit the mark for me as much. But I still admire Marvel taking the chances that it does with some of these characters. So I think this was definitely a win for them, and I'm looking forward to the sequel. And when he's back in whatever Marvel movie they're gonna put him in, so 2 thumbs up for Shang-Chi.
All right, awesome. And that was definitely, you know, among the films that I enjoyed. it just fell short of 10. And again, like just like Jerome was saying, like at least in this point of time, where things stand right now, this is where things are. Things change all the time. I know, Jerome, we were just talking about offline, how your thoughts on the Matrix changed, and you felt some type of way about it, and that since
Yes.
like it's changed. So and watching again, sometimes like in watching something again, you feel differently about it, and actually taking in a second or a third time. And then sometimes it's actually worse. Sometimes like you think it's pretty good, and then you like look at it and you're like, actually no, like you start like picking it apart. So it can happen either way. So for
but I will say one thing. I don't get, but I will say
Yes.
one thing. These movies in the top 5 for me, at least, it's like I had an initial reaction where at the end I was like, okay, I enjoyed this. I at least had that reaction. So that's also how I'm judging these too. So I don't know about you, but that's how I'm doing it. There's some of the films where I'm kind of like trying to like convince myself did I like it or not. I'm like, no, it can't be my. So that's just how I look at it. So I don't know about you. That's how I'm judging these. But anyway, all right, let's hear you with number 4.
All right, so my number 4, and we had a little glitch there. So you guys, you may have already just been spoiled on it just now, but is the horror film known as Antlers. So let me pull it up. So yes, Antlers. It was a film that it's seen delays. Obviously because of the pandemic, and I was really looking forward to it. Directed by Scott Cooper. It stars Kerry Russell, Jesse Plemons. And it also has a terrific performance by a young kid named Jeremy T. Thomas. Now, if you just need to have an idea of just the general premise, it basically takes place in an isolated Oregon town, and you have this middle school teacher and her sheriff brother kind of get involved in the life of this very like disturbed child who as we learn more about him and more things are peeled away about his life, we find out far more tragic things and might I even say supernatural things as well. In terms of, and a lot of people have been saying this and they're absolutely right, is in terms of how it was promoted very much as like a run-of-the-mill horror film. And don't get me wrong, there are a lot of horror elements in this film. However, it's far deeper than that, and it deals with other topics that I wasn't even anticipating. But in what it had to say about that topic, it was really poignant. And as I said, the performances are outstanding. So yeah, like I don't know if I can add anything else with this film. It's a nice, contained story that features just a couple. It's not a huge ensemble. It's only a couple of actors. I mean, I'm trying to think offhand. You maybe have, in terms of the story, maybe just 4 characters that it really tells the majority of the story about. I mean, yes, you have some ancillary characters here and there, but in terms of like the plot, it's pretty self-contained. So Jerome, I know you said you haven't seen this, but I know you said you wanted to see it and that you have it on your list. uh
I made a TV series based on that. Would you watch it?
Right. Yeah. No, you were saying like, yeah. Sometimes my recommendations are good, and sometimes they're bad. I think we just had a small glitch. So go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying like no. I enjoy your recommendations because like some of these movies I probably would never watch, but like no, I like watching. I watch some of these horror films too, but I just laugh because like I remember you recommended like The Human Centipede, and I was like, definitely an experience. I was like, I'm wondering if there's a TV series. Would you watch that? Oh, but anyway, hey, man, like I said, I'm open. I like watching all sorts of films. It's just I kind of prioritize the ones I really want to see. But yeah, obviously, I know you're a big horror film guy. So, hey, man, we saw Candyman together. Hey, well, I guess it didn't make out our list. You know why? Because it was a remake. No. I think that's what goes against it. That to me, that's the only thing that goes against it. Really.
Yeah. Anyway. But all right, you're number 3. Go ahead.
Wow, we're already at number 3. Okay, so number 3. Now, this movie kind of surprised. Well, I wouldn't say completely surprised me, but it it definitely it definitely got higher up my list when I saw it, because I was like, I really enjoyed this, and it was really compelling. And I hope Will Smith gets at least nominated. I mean, I wouldn't be mad if he won the Academy Award. King Richard, just giving you a quick summary. Obviously, it's a look at how tennis superstars Venus and Serena Williams became who they are after the coaching from their father, Richard Williams. Now, I heard about this movie, I remember, a while back, and I was like, okay, Will Smith is going to, I was like, Will Smith is going to be in a movie about Venus and Serena Williams growing up. I was like, okay, I guess it could be interesting. It's like, whatever. And then I saw the trailer, and I was like, okay, all right, wow, this is interesting. He has a specific accent, and I was like, he is playing a different character than what he normally plays. And I'm like, okay, this movie looks kind of interesting. I was like, okay. And I remember there was some controversy, people trying to say, oh, what's up with his accent, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yo, leave the guy alone. Just watch the movie. I watched the movie, and I'm just like, wow, I'm not even a tennis fan. And I didn't even know everything about Serena and Venus Williams' story growing up. But I was so impressed and so enthralled watching this film. I was just like, it's just so it's so inspiring, like watching it, and it's about how Richard Williams, really pushed his daughters to become these great tennis players, athletes, and the best in the industry. You could even argue this is the best coaching story ever in sports, because he didn't just coach one superstar. Two superstars that have that dominated, tennis, and. It's not like your typical story. It's not like your typical story of hey, he just was bashing them or whatever, and then they hated him or something like that, or oh, he just pushed them so hard, and he's this terrible guy. No, it's he pushed them, he inspired them, but he also cared about their education. He cared about protecting them, and the mother, his wife, she was just as important too. She was holding it down for them, and like I said, they were in Compton. The Williams sisters, they grew up in Compton and then became tennis superstars. The idea that actually is a reality and happened is just amazing, because you're nobody from Compton was dominating in tennis. And it's if anybody wants to talk about, hey, life is difficult, my struggle is hard, you can't accomplish, it's hard to accomplish certain things. It's just seeing that and what he put his daughters through to play tennis in some of the worst areas of Los Angeles, and he had to deal with a lot of bullshit, like gang violence, people intimidating, people trying to talk to his well, I don't know how much all of that is accurate, but of course it's based off of I'm sure they might have changed some stuff, who knows, but all that stuff he had to deal. Dude, he would get beat up. He almost got killed. He went through all this craziness, but his mind was set. He's like, I know that my daughters are going to be champions, they're gonna be successful. He saw it, and he did his homework, he researched everything, and it's not just about him fighting for his daughters that's so amazing. It's the idea. I love the idea of there's this guy, he's from Louisiana, and he's seen all sorts of racist, terrible stuff, lynching, whatever, from back in the day, and he got away from that. So he's like, this is nothing compared to what he dealt with, and the idea that he's doing his homework, and he's researching all these tennis coaches, and he knows who's the best and what his daughters need to do. And he's so adamant on hey, we need to get this coach, we need to practice this way, we need to do what we need to do. We have to find a way to do it. And he doesn't sound like the most polished person. He has a thick accent. He doesn't sound like, maybe the typical person might not think he's the smartest guy or whatever, but he is really smart, and he's really driven. And the idea that he proves it to all these other coaches and other, I guess tennis pro or experts or whatever that are, let's be honest, it's a predominantly white sport and from specifically the rich demographic, plays tennis. It's not, it's opened up now, but you didn't really see any black girls or minorities really in that sport. It's a rich community sport, just like golf, kind of even though, of course, you have now more people are getting into it, but it's still not, it's not like basketball or even football or baseball to a certain extent. But and I just love this idea how I'm sure these dudes are looking at this guy. They're they think he's just, what the hell is he talking about? But he was making them look stupid because he knew his stuff. And it's like I think it's really good showing this idea of like, don't judge someone based on how how they sound or how they look specifically, and if you're really determined and you're driven and you do your homework or whatever and you just keep pushing, like, and the numbers don't lie, the success doesn't lie. Like, his daughters were just, he made sure they were so good, like no one could deny them, like they were so good and they just killed it, and it just changed everything. And the sponsorships they got, like, and how young they were when they were breaking these records. I mean, all that stuff is just so amazing. It just makes me want to like learn more about tennis. Like I said, I'm not even like the biggest. I don't even really care about tennis. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm not even a big sports fan. But this story is just so good. And Will Smith was so good in the movie. I'm like, if he does not get nominated, I'm gonna be so mad. I'm gonna be like, you guys, the Academy Awards is so corrupt. I mean, and already they make some stupid decisions. But if they don't nominate this guy, I mean, he at least deserves to be nominated. I need to see some of these other films. Okay, we'll see. That supposedly these best actor contenders are in. But honestly, he could win. To me, this is one of his best performances. I mean, I still think probably The Pursuit of Happiness is his best performance. Ali is really good, and he's also good in what was another one I really, really liked?
7 Pounds.
But this one is up there for me. I mean, of course, he was also really good at 6 Degrees of Separation, and I mean, but like just performance wise, I would say, yeah, this is up there with Pursuit of Happiness, because he's just so believable. They put a scene in there, I was telling you already, from the actual news footage of Richard Williams interrupting this guy who's pressing his daughter. I think it was Venus. He was pressing her on an answer she gave him, and she answered the question already. But he's like, "How do you know? How are you so confident that you're gonna win?"
And I want to make sure, is this something that someone might want to see?
No. I mean, it's in the it's just footage. Okay. Whatever. It doesn't matter. I mean, people know this. It's not that. Yeah. Look, this is an example also of a movie. Like, you probably know. There's a good idea. You probably know what's gonna happen, but it doesn't matter. It's how it is shown is just done so well. I mean, it's based off a real story. But anyway, he goes in there. This interviewer keeps pressing. I know we talked about this earlier, but he keeps pressing Venus about, like, he's like, so how do you know that you're gonna win? Why are you so confident? And then her father comes in. He's like, she already told you that, she already told you that she's gonna do this, that she wants it, that she's confident. Like, why are you trying to like make her feel like she's not confident? Like, I mean, he was just going at it. I'm like, it's like, damn, man, it's like, that's the type of parent you want to have that's gonna like fight for you, protect. I'm just like, wow. I was just like that dude, like, he would do anything for his daughters. And it's like, I will say, I don't know everything about Richard Williams in real life, but I have heard of other stories how, like, he has other, and then they talk about in the movie how he has other kids, and there's some other controversies, but they didn't really focus on all that stuff because that wasn't the main story. And I'm kind of glad they didn't, because like, you didn't need to put all that in. I mean, whatever. Everybody, there's so many different sides to everyone's story, but the stuff, the story they focus on with just him bringing up his spoilers. I mean, whatever. Him raising his daughters and making them champions they are. It was just so amazing. It's just so inspiring, and like I said, not just Will Smith also being great in the movie. Like the woman who played his the wife, John Bernthal, is also in there. Tony Goldwyn, like, they're great. I mean, the girls who played Venus and Serena Williams, they had to learn tennis. I mean, they had to learn to play as much as they could, like the actual sisters. And they approved of this film. It's not like they weren't involved. So that's also very important. And I would also have to give one last shout out to the director, who he also went to NYU grad. Got to represent. He's actually he's Afro Latino. I know Frank Reyes was tweeting about this. Who's another director who's who knows who was talking about this. But yeah, I just want to give him his credit too, because he did a great job. I don't know. I mean, who knows if if he'll get nominated? Even though I think he did a great job. But sorry, let me just want to make sure I get this completely accurate. Yeah, man, you guys, Ronaldo Marcus Green, he directed it. And I heard he was like, he went to NYU grad. So like I said, I got represented. I didn't go to grad, I went to undergrad, but yo, he did a great job. He did a great job. And the writers did a great job. And lastly, like I'll say, I hope Will Smith continues to pick projects that are like well written like this. Because Will Smith, I enjoy a lot of Will Smith movies, and sometimes it's kind of hit or miss, because I can tell sometimes maybe it's like, maybe he's just doing a film to do it or whatever. But for the dramatic roles, because I know how Will Smith likes to switch from, like, he'll do the big event movies or these big blockbusters, but then he'll do these smaller, dramatic films, and he does really good job. Oh yeah, I forgot the other film, Concussion. He was really good in Concussion, Pursuit of Happiness, and King Richard. Those are my favorite performances. I mean, he was good in performances. He was also good in Ali, but I think these are my top 3 favorite Will Smith performances. And I will say, like I said, this movie was like, Will Smith was really good in it, but also the movie was really good. And that's one thing I respect, because I feel like Will Smith he's probably doing a better job picking better scripts too. Because sometimes that's what happens. An actor might find a role that they're really, really good in. They like the role, but maybe the movie isn't that great. But this is one where it was spot on. And like I said, it deserves all the accolades it got. Will Smith deserves to be nominated. I mean, anyone, even the supporting cast, like the actress who played his wife, if she gets nominated, I mean, and even if the director gets nominated, I mean, it was such a great film that, like I said, if Will Smith does not get nominated, man, the Academy Awards is just gonna lose all of its credibility, because there's no reason why he shouldn't get nominated. He did an amazing job, and if they don't nominate him, man, I think then everyone has a real good reason to boycott the Oscars and be like, you guys are just idiots, because if that's not a great performance, I don't know what the hell is, because it's an amazing performance. It's an amazing performance. So that's
it's
my
on
number
my
3.
to-do list. I haven't had a chance to actually see it. I know, crazy, right? I have not seen that film yet. But
you gotta watch it, man.
I know, no, it is on my to-do list to watch. I've heard so many terrific things about it, so it's definitely a film that is in my queue to check out. All right, so Jerome's number 3 again is King Richard. So let me hop into my number 3. Surprise, a horror film. But a little different in that it's not a run-of-the-mill horror film. It is like a subgenre of horror, and that being anthology. So my number 3 for this year was VHS 94. So, if you guys have been, keeping track of this franchise, VHS 94 is actually, believe it or not, and it's hard to believe that it's been going this long, but it's the 4th installment in this franchise. And let me just say this, like, just with horror, and I'm the first one to admit this, as much as I like the genre, a lot of times when you're dealing with horror franchises, there's just diminishing returns. And a lot of times I'm like, man, they should have just stopped after the first one. The first one was perfectly fine. Why did you add a second and third one and fifth one and sixth one? Like, stop. But for this franchise, it's one of the rare ones, I feel, where each one of these films, have awesome stories. And that's really a credit to the fact that they get some really great ensembles to tell these stories, whether it's between, the list of actors to do each of these stories, or even, the filmmakers and writers. I mean, shout out to Ed Sanchez. He's friend to the show. He's been on the show before a few times. Who you guys may know. He's the co-director of the Blair Witch. He did a GoPro oriented film in the second installment in VHS 2, and Jamie Nash, who is a lot of times his writing partner. Shout out Jamie Nash as well. He wrote that particular story, and shout out to Jay as well. He's the main character in that particular story. It's pretty cool. But yeah, like, each of these films are impressive in their own right. They don't really rely on you having to see the other installments to really be able to follow what's going on. I mean, sequentially they're all sequels, but they're unique stories unto themselves. And case in point with this film, all the other films have progressively kind of stayed in that realm of something that's more modern. And in this film, we actually journey back to the past and go, just as the title says, 94. So that aesthetic of what was the technology like in 94? And they use that and implement that into a lot of their stories as well. So, they could have easily just done like a quick cash grab and done just some random, stories. But, they tried to do something unique here with the fourth installment by, journeying back and using a unique aesthetic that we know from that decade. So I don't want to get into like all the specifics of some of the stories. There's some awesome stories in there that I enjoyed. I tell you what, I will put this, but I'm not going to get into like the definitive specifics.
Spoilers again, spoilers.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to be as sensitive about that as possible because like I know how that is. So like just the idea of they have one story that deals with a creature that's in a sewer. That's really cool. And they have one that's kind of like it reminds me of District 9, except that it deals with robots. That's really cool. Those are the ones that
is like Chappie then.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, Chappie. Thank you, Chappie. Yes, Chappie. It's very Chappie-esque. It's like a really dark version of Chappie. I won't, but that's as far as I'll go in terms of like getting into those specifics. But yes, by all means, check out VHS. All right, Jerome. Any thoughts on this pick before you hop into your number 2?
I mean, like I said, I still haven't even seen the first VHS or whatever, so I'm kind of behind. But I will once I check those out, then. Like I said, I give your opinion definitely credit. Like I'll actually look at something if you say something's pretty good, and I like hearing that from other people. Like I like seeing different picks for films because, like I said, I try to mix it up. I'm always open to watching different movies. But anyway, our next pick is we can just go back and forth. I'll give my little piece, and it's the same movie. Our last.
Go ahead.
Drum roll. Now, to me, and I mean, this came out recently, and like, there's no surprise as to why this is at least in the top 2. And this is definitely the best Marvel Cinematic Universe film that came out last year, in my opinion. And it sounds like it's in your opinion too, because it's number 2 for you. Spider-Man No Way Home. I mean, we already had our little non-spoiler review, so I mean, we could probably just do a little summary. But, everybody knows this is the 3rd installment in the MCU version of Spider-Man series. And, John Watson's back to direct, and you have Tom Holland and giving you – I mean, if you haven't seen this movie yet, I mean, I don't know what rock you've been hiding under, but you need to go watch it. But to give you the little synopsis – it's for any of those who haven't seen it. With Spider-Man's identity now revealed, Peter asks Doctor Strange for help. When a spell goes wrong, dangerous foes from other worlds start to appear, forcing Peter to discover what it truly means to be Spider-Man. So basically, if you've seen the other films, you know where you are, where it continues. And like I said, I was hyped to see this film already because I enjoyed the other 2, and of course, Marvel Marvel knows what they're doing, especially with Kevin Feige and the MC and Disney, Marvel Studios specifically, because they seem to be doing their own thing, and the formula works. But like I said, I was very impressed because it's the 3rd film in this series, and like I said, to me every film got better, and that tells you something about the franchise and people who are the writers, the filmmaker, the producers. Like that doesn't always happen.
This franchise is now doing fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. Which I think is amazing, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, I kind of like when they have different people doing stuff because then it's like whatever. But I'm sure. I'm sure he would do a good job. I mean, he did a great job with these films. But I kind of also like seeing some of these like directors who have their own franchise. Like you kind of see their mark and their style. And they put their stamp on the franchise. But this guy, like, obviously he was a good pick. I mean, I still haven't seen the film that got him Spider-Man. What was it, a cop car or whatever? Spider-Man Homecoming. I mean, that's supposedly the film I think that got Kevin Feige excited to hire him. But like I said, this was definitely, to me, it was the best film out of the solo Spider-Man franchise in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And after seeing it a second time, I definitely, it still hit the mark, and it still hit the grade. I still give it the same grade. Like I said, where I probably give it like an A-, but because I still think that yes, I still think there were some missed opportunities or whatever, but overall, it doesn't even matter. Like the movie was done really well. Even with, like I said, even with some of its flaws, and we discussed this already, Brandon, in the previous episode. It was just done really well because, like I said, it's a different situation for me. Is because they put Spider-Man in this totally different situation. It's a different conflict. You don't see the same conflict in the other films. There's a lot of homages and tributes and like Easter eggs and like whatever. I'm not gonna go into it because there's still people probably watching the film, but they have a lot of great elements from previous films. Whatever you see in the trailer, you would already know. And like I said, they have a compelling enough plot and way to bring all these different characters into the film, and they, like I said, they make it work and it adds to the story. Like I said, how they brought Doctor Strange into it, I thought was great, and also just like I said, forcing Peter Parker to deal with all these different obstacles and these situations that he hasn't dealt with before, and his interaction with different characters and how that works, and him having to make these difficult decisions too, that aren't just the same recycled ones that we've seen in other Spider-Man films. I still, like I said, it's hard for me to say. I don't know if this is the best Spider-Man film. Like, it's definitely up there. I probably, like we were saying before, to me, it's probably tied with, like, I don't know, I kind of tie it with Spider-Man 2 or the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I'm still like thinking about it, but because those were definitely great too. But I will definitely say it's the best of the solo Spider-Man films in the MCU. And I'm excited to see what else they're going to do with Spider-Man, because there's still so many more stories they could tell. And it seems like Tom Holland, he doesn't mind. He can keep playing. He'll keep playing it. And yeah, I mean, as long as they pay him what he needs to get paid and the movies are good, like, hey, and he's young enough to keep going. I mean, come on. That was smart on Marvel's part. But yeah, it came out. It's funny. Spider-Man No Way Home was that movie that came out during, of course, we have a pandemic still going on, but it came out in that Star Wars release date slot. If you notice, like, because like I said, there's no more Star Wars movies that are coming out anytime soon, so it replaced and it delivered. Because usually there's like a Star Wars movie coming out in the wintertime, but like, man, Disney must be so happy. Me like, hey, man, we got something else instead of Star
Sony
Wars
too.
coming out.
Sony
yeah,
too.
Well, Sony, Sony, of course, Sony with it. This is also, like I said, the best example showing that if Marvel, I think if Marvel wasn't involved making this movie, it definitely wouldn't have been as good or successful, because I feel like Sony has learned, like, hey, man, we're not the best at making our own Spider-Man films, even though they made some before that were pretty good. But like, I don't know. I just feel like this kind of, to me, it really proves that like what Marvel Studios is able to do with their characters is different than what a different studio who's maybe doesn't have the same vested interest in all of their characters or just that character in general. Because like basically Sony has to continue making Spider-Man movies or they're going to lose the rights after a while with all these characters because they license it. So that's why they also kept making more Spider-Man films. So, I mean, I'm sure they're going to continue this partnership with Marvel, but because they want to keep keep making money and have the rights, still retain those rights. But, and I mean the license at least. But yeah, I mean, this was really, it was a really good. It was done well. It was done well, and like I said, even with its flaws, like, which we're not the end of the world. It was really entertaining, really compelling, and like I said, it's more than just an entertaining film. It really, I feel like it gets to the heart of what Spider-Man is, and you have that essence there, and the performances and everything were great, and like I said, there's still things like we talked about that I think could have been improved, and I wanted to kind of see, but sometimes you don't always get everything you want, but overall, it still was satisfying and enjoyable, and it's interesting to see where Spider-Man is going to go from here. So I say it's number two for me.
All right. So Jerome was laughing a little before because my number two, as luck would have it, is also Spider-Man No Way Home. I don't feel like I need to add a whole bunch to what you just said. I agree with many of the things you said. I'll just say this is that there were a lot of things that this film had to accomplish, and it could have easily been a real cluster in terms of all of the things that it was incorporating into its story. And while I do have while I do have an issue with and it's a nitpicky thing, while I do have an issue with how things like transpire later on in the story, still, despite me having that issue, there's still a reason and a purpose behind it, which I can't be mad at. Like the elements that they introduce is not just there for the sake of being there, is there for a reason. Even if I may not like the way specifically how all the pieces fell into place, it was still done for a reason, and it still carries the story forward. And the fact that you're able to accomplish that with all of those elements being utilized in the story, like I have to tip my hat to you. Like it functioned very well. Like it was seamless in terms of how all those elements came into play. It didn't feel like it was just stuffed in there just for the sake of being stuffed in there. And then also it leaves his story in a very interesting and unexpected place that makes me excited for like what comes next. So yeah, I mean, as I said, most of the stuff, like you said, you've already touched on, but I just wanted to add those components there. So go ahead, number one.
And I think you guys already do. Well, I mean, I put it on Facebook or whatever, and you know already. But this movie, right when I came out of watching it in the theater, in the advanced screening, thanks to you, man. You let me know. Props to Brandon for getting an invite. Yo, The Suicide Squad. That's my number one pick. And that was the only movie this year that after I watched it, I was like, this movie is great. Like, it is so amazing. And to me, it proves the auteur, the writer-director, not just director, not just writer, the writer-director, who is James Gunn. He knows what he's doing. Like he like, if you have someone with a specific voice and is perfect for a certain type of film in a specific genre, it makes a difference. It really makes a difference. It just shows, like, in the hands of someone else. I'm not saying, like, look, I didn't hate on the first one, like it was terrible or nothing. I still enjoyed the first one, but to me, it just shows like what was the potential of that film. And I feel like this film, even though it's kind of like they say a requel, a reboot / sequel. It just shows the difference, that it makes when you have a film in someone else's, in someone else's hands or in someone else's pen that's writing the script. And like I said, after this movie, I wasn't like trying to justify, did I kind of like this? Oh, I don't know. This didn't work, that work. I mean, if there were some flaws, I mean, maybe there could have been. I don't know. I don't remember, because the movie, like, to me, throughout the entire film, it was just great. Now, it's true. I went to see this film a second time with one of my friends, and he still enjoyed it too. But the reason why he didn't like it as much, he doesn't like really wacky or crazy stuff. Like, he likes the action stuff and all the superhero stuff, but he doesn't like when it's ridiculous. I mean, that's fair. Like there's some people who maybe they just don't like crazy, ridiculous stuff, but that doesn't mean that this wasn't done well. Like, if you I feel like even the people who didn't maybe like that as much, they still can respect what was done. And this specific genre of a Dirty Dozen ragtag type of superhero film with misfits or outcasts, or that will actually, they're criminals, and you say anti-heroes, but I mean they're bad guys technically, or just criminals, and then having to come together and being put in the situation where they have to go on a mission, and they might die if they don't, they might die on the mission, or they might get killed for not obeying orders. It's a ridiculous premise, and it's also cool and everything, but because of the genre and the style and the idea is also kind of ridiculous, James Gunn, he knows how to play on every different aspect. And the action mixed with the comedy, with the locations, with the actors, I mean, it was just everything was spot on for me. And you know, what's it called? Like, because I remember even like Will Smith was supposed to come back, and then maybe, you know, he couldn't come back for whatever reason. They were gonna completely just recast him with Idris Elba as playing his character, and I'm glad they didn't do that.
Scheduling reason, I believe.
Yeah, whatever. But what, you know, yeah, probably scheduling, I think. But regardless, you know, I'm glad they didn't do that, because maybe they could use Will Smith later, you know, to have to come back. But it just shows, it's like, you know, I wasn't even thinking about really the first one. I mean, they had you know, Viola Davis, she came back. You had Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn coming back, and who else? Oh yeah, Rick, what's his name?
Captain Boomerang. Yeah,
Captain Boomerang, but also the other dude, Joel Kinnaman, who played was it Rick?
Flag.
That was Jai Courtney was Captain Boomerang, but
right, Rick Flag.
So Rick Flag. That's why I was about to say Rick Flair Kinnaman for some reason.
Yeah. Don't worry. Yeah,
Rick Flag. Yeah. So you have some of that interconnected tissue from the last film with some of the cast and everything, and you get the idea. Like they kind of get into it. You know, that's what I also liked about the movie. Like, they just get into it. Like, you just go, like, you know, even if you didn't see the last one, whatever, they get to the point, and then, you know, there's so many twists. There's twists and turns. I'm not gonna, you know, go through it, because I mean, obviously you guys should have watched it by now. But whatever. I want you to enjoy it when you go see it. But I will say what really makes this movie so great for me is, I mean, we talked about this before a lot. Really, if you think about it, like, a movie like this probably shouldn't work and should be like ridiculous, like should just be stupid and ridiculous. But the fact that James Gunn could actually pull it off, it just shows how talented that dude is. Like, it's the same with Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, the Guardians of the Galaxy films are PG-13. You have a little more leeway to, you know, I get family-friendly audiences to, you know, watch it, and you know, maybe there's a little more exceptions, because it's like, hey, you know, a talking raccoon or whatever, like, I don't know, kids might like that or whatever. This movie is rated R. Okay, now it is true, HBO Max, I'm sure that it being released simultaneously, that affected the box office, because it didn't do as well as it should have in the box office. But it doesn't even matter. Regardless of box office, who cares? Like, I'm sure I'm sure like later on people are gonna still go back to this film and be like, yo, it's one of the best, obviously, in the DC DCEU or DC universe, if you want to say that. But the idea that this actually was done so well, and it's so ridiculous, like, like I said, they have a character they have the Weasel, they have Ratcatcher 2, they have King Shark. I mean, they have the most ridiculous characters, but it works, and it's funny, and it's action packed, and there's social commentary. Like, I like I said, I'm not gonna give away stuff, but you watch the movie towards the end, and you're like, yo, he even put some social commentary reflecting what's going on. You know, how this country is, how it treats other countries. I was just like, wow.
Yeah, he peppers it in there.
I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, yo, my hat goes off to James Gunn. The dude, like, he made a really entertaining, funny, action packed film with social commentary in it, and it had some pretty good you know, cliff. It had me not okay. There's some parts maybe you're like, okay, yeah, I kind of was like, okay, this is probably gonna happen, but I didn't see everything. I didn't see all of that going in the direction it went. And even if you can predict some of the stuff that's happening, it's such an enjoyable ride, and it has so many different characters, and how they work. The chemistry is great. I mean, the chemistry between Idris Elba, John Cena, like those characters, they had such hilarious, like, you know, interactions. And like I said, Viola Davis is great again as Amanda Waller, and Stallone doing the voice as King Shark. I mean, that was like, he was perfectly cast to do that. It's like, I mean, like I said, I saw it twice in the theater, and like I said, the main villain, I mean, like I said, you gotta watch the movie, but like I said, even the main, like, you watch like the main villain, go watch the movie, you'll see the idea of that even being a villain is just so ridiculous, but it works. I'm telling you, it works. And like I said, I think it works, like I said, not just because he's the filmmaker and he's great at what he's doing, James Gunn, but like I said, he also set the tone. Like, the tone is set early, and you know, they set their rules. You know, the rules are set, and they're consistent throughout. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're gonna have certain rules in your universe, got to be consistent, continue, and you can get away with certain things, you know. And like I said, it's really the writing. The writing is just done really well. The dialogue, the story, the characters serve the plot well. And even people who are on screen just for a little bit or whatever, like, they have their moment for the most part. And usually for the most part, there's a purpose. it's funny, it's entertaining. There's layers to it. Like I said, there was unexpected layers in this film. I was like, really? I wasn't expecting the commentary part. I was just like, wow. So my hats are yeah. This also shows like, and we're hardcore like Marvel fans, and like I said, I don't discriminate. Like if a movie's great, a movie's great. This is a pure example of why Warner Brothers is like, yo, James Gunn. They're like when Marvel supposedly wasn't using James Gunn, like when they fired him from Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Well, now he's gonna come back anyway. This is why Warner Brothers poached him. They're like, hey man, we want him to do this movie. What a great decision. That was a great decision. And and now he's gonna go back to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I mean, I can't wait till that comes out. Honestly, I really hope that they're able. I hope there's a way through HBO Max and the subscribers they maybe got or whatever from the film that they're able to justify doing another one. Because I would love to see another Suicide Squad film. But, man, to me, it's like one of the best DC films in the DCEU. Or probably, yeah, to me, it's like up there. Or it's tied with Man of Steel. Or to me, it's probably Man of Steel and the Suicide Squad. And just in general, it's a great superhero film. I mean, I would say, you could probably say it's in like the top 10 of, or right by the top 10 of best superhero films. And it was different. Like I said, it's unique. It's its own story. And for an R-rated film, too, there are not that many great R-rated superhero movies. And this is definitely one of them. So that's my 2 cents. I know we talked about this. Go ahead. You can add what you want to add.
So, yes, again, the last 2 films are exactly the same for each of us. So my number one as well is none other than the Suicide Squad. Again, many of the things that you said, I feel you already hit the nail on the coffin already. The only thing that I'll add to it is just saying that I feel that when it's all said and done, unfortunately, I think this is going to be the case, that people are going to take for granted how talented of a filmmaker and writer James Gunn is. And unfortunately, I hope this doesn't happen, but it seems to happen like later on in the filmmaker's career after they, are not really, actively working, or unfortunately, if they pass away, people go back and look at their work. I feel like that's going to be the case with James, where like a lot of his work, and just like you were saying, this film like didn't make a ton of money, but it was well received. Like critically, it was well received. It's a really fun film, and I think it's just a casualty of the circumstances of the times that it was released in. And so, like similar to what you have, one thing that I would try to use as a comparison, filmmaker wise, is thinking of John Carpenter. Like there are films that John Carpenter has done that I like wholeheartedly love, and when they came out, like they just weren't received, the best. And then later down the line, people came to appreciate them even more. Now, in the case here, I feel like in that same regard, while there are films that, that he's doing that are doing well, like the Guardians of the Galaxy films, obviously, are doing well, I feel like there are far many other films in his filmography that are, quite good, that when people look back on it, they'll have a better appreciation of it. Like I'll give you an example. Super is one. I don't know if you've seen Super.
No, I haven't seen it. I got to go back and watch his older films.
It's kind of it's similar to Kick-Ass, but less heightened and more grounded. So it deals with this guy that becomes a vigilante. That's really good. I would say also, I know you're not really a horror guy, but again,
Slither or whatever.
Slither, yes.
Yeah,
Slither is hilarious.
I haven't seen it. No.
Yeah, it's a horror film, but it is hilarious. Like, and it's far more hilarious than you would think on the surface. Like when you're seeing this film, you think that it's just going to be another kind of like, splatter fest of a horror film, and not really have anything else, going on. But like if you look at a lot of, James's prior films, like that's what introduced me to James Gunn. It was actually was Slither and some of those other earlier films that he did when he wasn't as well known. Because he used to, for any of you out there, and let me know if you remember G4. I know that they that they are kind of back, but not in the way that they used to be, where they used to, have their own station. I want to say, you guys can correct me, I'll look it up, that they are doing more of the streaming thing these days. But no, like he used to come on there all the time. Like he used to come on if you guys remember, he used to come on Attack of the Show and a lot of those shows, and guest hosts, and he very much has a sense of I guess pop culture, and he's a fan of a lot of these things that he does. So it adds that element to it too. And if you're looking at a lot of his, if we're looking at like films like Guardians of the Galaxy, it shouldn't come as a surprise that Suicide Squad works, because I feel like even though we have some terrific directors in the MCU, James Gunn, I feel, is an unsung hero among those directors, because who would have thought that people would have cared about Guardians of the Galaxy? Like,
he has his own voice.
Who knew what Guardians of the Galaxy was? Yeah. Who could have thought that people would have cared about a talking tree and a raccoon and like all these ridiculous characters, and make it work, and have them have heart, and have you care about them, and what their journey is. And like, I don't think there's much else to be said. So let's hop over to TV and streaming. Go ahead.
Yes. All right. So I'm gonna try and make these a little bit shorter, because I know we're gonna keep going. But hey, man, this is New Year's. Yeah. All right. So my number 5 show is Loki, and I gotta take my hat off to Marvel, because they're killing it with the TV shows. I mean, what they have released, they had WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier, Loki, What If, and then Hawkeye. 5 shows. It's incredible that they're even able to release that many shows when you're at 4 movies. Okay, granted there was a pandemic and stuff got pushed back, but regardless, Loki was it's funny, Loki was one of the shows I wasn't really looking at. I wasn't really excited for. I was like, okay, I guess after Endgame, with Loki disappearing after taking the Tesseract in that one timeline, they're gonna make a show. And I was like, okay. I initially thought it was just, they're just gonna have him go through, that timeline and do stuff. And I was like, okay, whatever. So I went in with low expectations. But and I still wouldn't say, I don't think Loki is the best one out of all the shows, but I will say it really, as the show progressed, I really enjoyed where they were going in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it was really adding to another dimension that, like I said, they already introduced, and they're continuing to add on towards, which is the whole idea of these multiverses and different timelines that they introduced in Endgame, and what are the consequences to that, and if you're a variant, look at how that affects everything else, and how it affects Loki. Because Loki's he's one of the most interesting characters, villains / also just characters in MCU. And Tom Hiddleston, he's played him so well, and it would have been a shame to not have him come back ever since his demise in Infinity War. Obviously, if you haven't seen that movie, that's not a spoiler. You should have seen that already. But and then I would say Loki. Like I said, if you haven't seen the series yet, you need to go watch. I won't spoil everything, but I will say one of the to me, Loki had one of the best episodes out of all the series, just because of what happened in the what is it like? I think it was like, was it the last episode? The second to last episode, or where they introduced somebody?
Yeah, that was the end. That was the end.
Yeah, it was the last one. To me, it was like, I guess, if you do enough reading on the internet or whatever, you can ruin your own experience watching some of these shows. But like, I didn't think that was actually, I didn't see how it was going to play out and everything. And I was like, I think they did a really great job. And like I said, if you think some of these shows are just filler, or Marvel's just like slacking now, they're just trying to do new stuff, you just don't know what you're talking about, because man, Marvel is not, it's like everything that they set up, they deliver on, and they continue to add to, and there's a reason for everything. And like, man, they made that Loki show have a purpose and continue to add on to the multitude of of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and another aspect of it that we haven't explored, and now we're kind of forced to be explore it because of what happened in Avengers Endgame. And I think they did a great job, and it just opens up more doors and more conflict and situations that are going to rise, which I am sure they're going to eventually build up to the next Avengers film, and some of these other films coming out. So I thought it was a great job. Like I said, it was a pleasant surprise because I had no idea that they were going to that the show was going to really have a purpose that really that's really relevant to the rest of the other films and shows, and I was pleasantly surprised. And it was, like I said, it's also specifically because it was a different aspect of the universe that we haven't seen before, and they were just developing more and going more into more depth. So that's why I enjoyed it. And like I said, I really think I think that show had the best episode out of all the shows, or the best episode out of all the live action shows, at least, I would say, this year. So Marvel, do your thing. Good job.
All right. All right. So you said Loki was your number 5. So I raised you. Well, I guess it's not a raising you. It's relative. My number 5 was none other than Narcos Mexico. Man, like, I know
great show.
I know we were talking about, the MCU, but I always say, like, this show does something cool in that regard that the MCU, has, made a name for itself with. And it's just that idea of like a universe. And the thing that's cool about this is that, these are real people. Like, these people actually existed. And, you hear about some of the things that happened, that transpired. And mind you, some of it is, elaborated on, and it's not, everything, every single detail isn't absolutely true, but you'd be surprised what elements of it are in fact true. And so, we had the initial series Narcos, which, followed Pablo Escobar. And then we delve into, this show with Mexico. I mean, we should say we had Pablo Escobar, and we also had the gentleman of
Cali Cartel.
The Cali Cartel, to close us, to send us off. So this year we had the 3rd season of Narcos Mexico, and if you're not familiar with that show, it kind of acts as a story that runs parallel to the events of Narcos, where, like, in the 1st season, they kind of touch on some things that happened towards the beginning of Narcos, and then as you progress through that 1st season, you catch up to a lot of those events that you recall from Narcos. And the reason why I bring up that whole idea of a universe is that, they, just like you would have in the MCU, you have people that pop up and make cameos, which are really cool. And it's the same exact actors, in those roles that you recall from the other series. So, you have that connective tissue there where you get invested with the actors that play these, these iconic, these kingpins. And it's just interesting to, hear or see play out a lot of these events that seem so ridiculous. But, like, as I said, while some of it might be exaggerated, there are a lot of elements of it that are in fact true. So I know, like, this season, from what it's out there that this 3rd season will be the final season of Narcos Mexico. However, they leave it in such a place that I hope they continue it further. I feel like there is a character that they can continue onward with, and I feel like there's enough material there based on what's happened in our history that we could definitely do at least 2 seasons, if not 3 seasons, definitely 2 seasons with them. So, Jerome, your thoughts before we hop into your number 4.
Well, I'm still catching up on season 2 of Narcos Mexico, so I will get there. But you were right, though, like, because I'm a big fan of the season 1 and season 2. Season 1 through 3 for Narcos, because there were 2 seasons of Pablo Escobar, and then they did one. Right. Like, to me, my favorite season is probably still the season Pablo 3 for Narcos. No. I mean, Pablo's great, but I love the Cali Cartel. To me, that story is crazy. I was like, what? I didn't even know about all that. I was like, this is nuts. But this Narcos Mexico, I started it way earlier, and then when you were saying, oh, you're on season 3, I was like, oh man, I gotta catch up. I just finished up with season 1. Now I'm doing season 2. I was just like, man, yo, the Narcos Mexico is like, It's crazy too, and I didn't know it was simultaneous for some of the other events that happened in the other Narcos series. So I was like, wow, man. No, but it's great. And also shout out to that was on my what was it? Okay, it was later on in my list. My number what is it? I think it's number 9 on my TV list. True Story. Yeah, number 9. True Story, which is a great limited series. I know this is a little was it? Side note. Was produced by the creator of Narcos. Kevin Hart specifically teamed up with the one of the creators of Narcos, or the creator, and like that limited series is amazing, and it's like that's why like like Narcos is pretty damn consistent, but if you watch True Story, you're like, wow, that's a really good series too. That guy, he's really talented, so he knows what he's doing. Yeah, and no, you're right. I got to catch up though, so that's why I couldn't really say season 3 yet. But I'm sure it's probably great. So anyway,
all right, man. You're number 4. Go.
All right, so number 4, you guys probably already know. You should be watching this show, Succession, man. Season 3. I know you haven't seen it yet, man. You like Billions, but you gotta watch Succession, dude. Succession. Look, what we were just previously talking about, James Gunn having his own voice as a filmmaker, and he's unique. Well, Adam McKay is another filmmaker like that. Because if you watch The Big Short, if you watch Vice, and even Don't Look Up, which is that also made my top 10 for movies. Adam McKay has a specific voice, actually for a variety of types of comedy. Because like I'm not the biggest fan of Anchorman. I thought Anchorman was pretty good. He did that too. Talladega Nights though, that was really great. And he also did Step Brothers, and then the Anchorman is a sequel. I still got to watch that. But if you can be a fan of those, that's fine. But like Adam McKay also, he is really great at these smart comedies, specifically that are centered on like, well, if it's business or the financial world in The Big Short, or obviously with Dick Cheney and vice, the vice president and the administration during those years. But Succession is he created the TV show, and it's like, man, this show is basically based off of. It's pretty much based off of the Murdochs, and News Corporation and Fox. They own, well, when they had that big Fox deal, the News Corporation, they owned a lot of those companies that were sold to Disney. But the idea of a mogul, a media mogul and his family, a media mogul who's been in the game for a while, and then he has 4 kids, and they're all they're part of the family business. Eventually, it's not just family business, it's actually family and business, and how the family, tries to fight each other or, make moves against each other to, inherit the business. And the idea of what's the succession plan for this media mogul who's obviously getting older and older, and eventually he's going to have to pass it on to his kids. The whole conflict and dichotomy of that is just so amazing. Like when you start off watching the first season, it's great. And then the second season, there's, it continues the story, and there's all sorts of like curveballs thrown. And like, this season, I mean, like I said, if you've watched the other 2 seasons, you know what I'm talking about. But like, they continue that storyline of what happened last season. That was like a big, cliffhanger, and they continue with that, and that's what's so amazing. Obviously, the storylines, the how it's shot, they really give it that unique look. That's also kind of like, it's kind of similar to me. I kind of look at it almost like The Newsroom a little bit, but like from a business aspect, but with a business perspective, because that's what they're focusing on. But also, what makes the show work, of course, it's the writers, but the actors. I mean, Brian Cox is amazing. I mean, we know him from so many films. Obviously, X2, X-Men United. He was great as William Stryker, and then he was in, he played Hannibal Lecter back in the day in Manhunter, Michael Mann's Manhunter. But yeah, he's been in so many. He's such a great actor. And then also, like, I mean, Kieran Culkin. I mean, he's amazing. It's so funny. It's like you would think Macaulay Culkin would be the person that's only known in that family. I mean, obviously he was a huge kid star, but then Kieran Culkin, for him to grow up, and I'm like, wow, he's so good in this show. He plays the douchebag, kid, younger like heir to the business so well. You're just like, this guy is like, he's amazing. Like he plays that like it's like you're almost thinking like, is this how he is in real life? He just does it so well. And their cousin, who pretty much are seeing everything from his perspective, who's like the nervous trying to get into the whole, trying to get his piece in the organization, and there's just so many different types of characters who are all trying to make their way within the family business and always find an edge and find a way to have leverage. It's just done so well, and it's like I said, a lot of stuff is based off of real events, real stories, and to see the types of moves they all have to make to try to like get a business, to make an acquisition, or to make a deal go through, or to if there's a disagreement amongst the family, what are the mechanisms in place to see if, hey, can we take over the board or take over the company because maybe someone else is making some bad decisions, or for whatever reason, like seeing all of that into play, and also see like how it's like within a family. It's like you don't think about this stuff, but like, I mean, there's always this pretty much every family probably has some sort of dysfunction, but like when that is affecting business and billions of dollars and like how an organization is run, and then it's just done so well. And lastly, I'll say, like I said, a few of these actors, I mean, they're British or they're Australian, and like I never even knew that. I was like, man, I mean, they're doing the American accents way better than like some American actors. I'm just like, I would have never known. I'm just like, it's amazing. It just shows like the actors are great, the performances are great, the writing, how it's shot. I got shout out to Andre Parek. He went to NYU also, man. He's been a DP for a while. He's directed some episodes. He did a great job directing some episodes. So what's it called? But yeah, Adam McKay, man. Like, Adam McKay is definitely one of my favorite filmmakers too, because he has his own voice, and he definitely brings everything that you've seen from The Big Short and like Vice and all of those smart, I call them the smart comedies that he makes. He definitely brings that to Succession. Even though Succession is more of a serious TV show, there's still comedy. Like, it still has that style within it that still makes it funny in aspects, and like I said, educational, but also you really feel like you're in that world and you're getting that you're there. You're like a fly on the wall, because one of the characters, he's kind of like making his way through everything too. So you're kind of seeing it from his perspective, but it doesn't just focus on him, and you see the stuff that he goes through too. So if you're a fan of Billions, man, I think you're gonna like it. Like, you gotta watch it. But man, all I'll say is like some of those actors, like I think it was a great way to like shine the light on some of these actors that, like I said, I didn't even know what Kieran Culkin was doing before. I was like, what was he in? But like, man, he's so good in this series, and they have a lot of good actors that show up and do like have cameos that come in, or they're like supporting actors. So, and of course, Brian Cox. Brian Cox is amazing. Like, I mean, I'm not sure. I'm sure they've probably been nominated or whatever for the past seasons, or they've won. I haven't checked, but yeah, they deserve any awards that they win, the Emmys or Golden Globes. I mean, I know they've been nominated at least. But yeah, that show. And also, I will say, this is, to me, honestly, like I've talked to other friends about this, it really shows that HBO is like still on a level that like is hard to compete. It really shows, even if you don't like certain shows on HBO, like, it's true, I haven't seen every show on HBO.
There might be something there for you to enjoy.
HBO doesn't play. Like, pretty much everything that's on that show, on that network, is like quality.
They'll find something.
Even if you're not, because and this, to me, this proves it, because I was a big fan of, obviously, Sopranos was great. You had Game of Thrones. I liked Sex and the City. I thought it was good. Entourage, that was like my favorite show, 30-minute show. There were so many shows on there that were great, and then they left. But then they were able to replace them with these new shows that are like just as good, but in a different world. Man, HBO, like Netflix. Look, I will say Netflix is catching up, even though I think Netflix probably has the best limited series, like True Story. If you watch that, they have so many of those that are just so good.
And I'll get into another one later too. But
I think HBO, when it comes to just shows, like the quality of their shows and how they're in these different genres and different type, they tell these different stories. Like it's still hard to compete with them, because they just don't play like their quality. Like, even like I said, even Insecure, that ended recently. That was really good too. There's something for everybody, but they're always at the highest level. I mean, there might be some tweaks here and there, but like, and I know how you love Lovecraft Country. I saw, I didn't see all that, but I mean, too bad that's gone now. But you can't deny the quality that's on HBO. That's all I'm going to say. And this is another example of it. So that's what I'll say.
Cool.
Anyway.
Cool. So my number 4, switching gears from HBO over to Disney Plus. My number 4 was WandaVision. So yes, if you guys have been keeping track of like her story post in game, she's in a very interesting place. She's been through a lot. She's experienced a lot of loss, whether it's with Vision, whether it's with her brother in the prior Avengers film. So we pick up the story in an interesting aesthetic, where we have, just as the title says, we have Wanda and we have Vision, who are living an idyllic family life. But as I said, there are some things that are amiss, because if you have been following the story up to Endgame, there's some characters that shouldn't be around that are around. So it was great to be able to see this series and to kind of see it slowly peel away what those elements were. And it was fun to be able to speculate a lot of those things. Sometimes you turned out to be right, sometimes you turned out to be wrong. But that journey of them peeling away the mystery of what was happening was a lot of fun. And they, just like you were talking about before, of using different genres and aesthetics, they incorporate a whole bunch of aesthetics with this show, with WandaVision. So whether it's thinking of like the old time sitcom, with the those 50s 60s sitcoms that you may think of, whether it's like Leave It to Beaver or I Love Lucy or Bewitched. Like they borrow elements and tropes from a lot of those sitcoms that you enjoy, and how they go about it, and like going from decade to decade to decade was a lot of fun. um and I'll give credit, and I'll talk about this even with a lot of the other shows, how they're able to seamlessly introduce. Because we have to remember, if I recall, like, correct me if I'm wrong, Jerome, like, I'll look at it again, like, the WandaVision shows, they weren't crazy long. Weren't they like a half, if I recall, they were like 30 minutes?
Most of these shows, most of the Marvel shows were like 30 to 40 minutes.
Yeah.
They're like 30
no,
to 40.
I'm saying a lot of them are at least close enough to an hour where you might as well just round it out and say an hour. But I feel like for WandaVision, a lot of those episodes were shorter. I'll go back and look. And
but they switched it up. I mean, some of them they switched up. Remember, because like as it got, a lot of the other series, like, the same sort of thing. Yeah.
The way they were able to seamlessly implement like new characters that we've never up to this point been introduced to in the MCU, and have them work within the story. Because I'm like, with one of the characters with Monica, like, in terms of people, the story that people know about her destiny, and I won't get into like what that destiny is. Like, you would think that would be a character that wouldn't necessarily fit within WandaVision, but in terms of how they incorporate it, and MCU is great about doing this, they don't always follow the origins of their characters to a T. A lot of times they play with those origins, and they still act within the spirit of how the character is and how they function in that universe, and what their abilities are. But sometimes they play with that, where they still find an interesting way to still in essence create the same type of origin. And I know that there was some frustration, like with some viewers, where like, at least in that initial episode of kind of getting accustomed to the black and white, I didn't have issue with that, of kind of like that old style, like TV aesthetic. I know, like, I understand, like, with the series, when they were shooting it, that they tried to be as authentic as possible to the way TV shows were shot in that decade. So obviously, if you're not used to how a lot of those shows were shot, it's going to be a little jarring, and it's going to kind of be a little weird for you to watch. But I appreciated the fact that they were authentic to those eras, and like how those series were done at that time. Like, it just is a testament to like the dedication of that level of detail. But yeah, no, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed, what it means for the future for our character and where it, sets her up for. So definitely, I would say number 4 is WandaVision for me. All right.
Yeah, that first episode was 30 minutes. I looked it up, and some of them changed to 37. But yeah. But anyway.
All
right. Well, my number, what are we at? Number 3?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just finished binge watching this, man. Yo, you have to watch this. Oh my goodness, Cobra Kai season 4. I don't know if you can put the poster up or whatever, but I know the titles. But what's it called? Yeah, oh my goodness. I will confidently say, like, I'm a big fan of the Karate Kid movies, and I did see. I'm not gonna lie, I don't even know if I've seen the next Karate Kid, but yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I don't really remember the sequels that much because I probably only saw them once or something. I don't know. But the first one, of course, you remember. But I will say, this is very rare. I really feel like this TV series is even better than the movies. I mean, they do such a good job continuing the story, catching up with some of the older actors. I mean, obviously the saddest part, or the part that they couldn't explore, of course, would be Pat Morita blame Mr. Miyagi because obviously he passed away. I mean, rest in peace. But man, with bringing all these other characters back, man, they do such a good job. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I remember, I think this show was originally, it was on YouTube Red or something, and then I never had the appetite to even. I was like, whatever. I guess I'll get to it when I get to it. But I mean, when it came to Netflix, I was like, oh, let me finally check it out. Man, I was so impressed with the first season. I was like, gotta see the second one, and I binged that one. Then finally, when the third season came out, I was like, gotta watch it. And I was like, wow, the writing and the twists and turns were just done so well. And then now with this fourth season, how they keep bringing back some other characters. But like I said, regardless of them bringing back these other characters, there's a purpose. Like we were talking about with Spider-Man No Way Home or any other film that, or the Suicide Squad or
there was a reason. Not just there, just
they bring these characters back for a purpose. And not only that, like, it's not that predictable about what's going to happen because, like they set things up so well in this show, and then, like I said, it pays off. And if you watch, like I said, at the last episode of season 4, I was just like, wow, I didn't see that coming, but it's done so well. Now, of course, yes, it's like it's an homage to those 80s films and that era. So there's, of course, it's going to be some comedy and some funny stuff, and there is some cheesy stuff, but it's still entertaining. But what originally made this show so amazing is because the idea of the constant theme they have throughout this show is the idea of who's considered I guess a victim and a bully, you could kind of say, and like based on how they're treated, they kind of go. They might end up in a different dojo because obviously Cobra Kai is like the continuation of Cobra Kai was that dojo in the movies, but then you also have Miyagi-Do, which is Daniel LaRusso's his dojo, and then well, I'm not gonna give away everything, but anyway, the whole idea is like you have these different styles of karate and different characters from back in the day who might have been the bully or maybe they were the I guess the victim or whatever you want to say, the person get picked on. But then now they've grown, they become adults, they have different lives. You get to see where they've progressed. But then you have these new, you have a new generation of kids who are in high school, and based on how they might start off, if they're getting picked on or if they're the bully, they eventually get led towards joining maybe one of these different karate dojos. And then you get this, how the show is so good at like making you feel sorry for, or feel sorry for some of these characters, or just you're compelled to want to care about their journey, and then to see where they end up getting trained, and then how they change, and then they might switch sides or whatever. Like they do such a good job in showing that and like just building it up. And a lot of these side characters too that come out of nowhere, they start to show every episode off a lot of times in different in random places, maybe, or with random characters, and then you're like, oh wow, that's how that's tied into this story, and you're like, wow, and they build on it. Like there's no like slack, there's no extra. It's not filler or fatty, extra fat. It's all like meat and potatoes, man. Like this is like I said, everything is like you better pay attention to stuff that happened early on in the season or in every episode, because later on they will tie it up later, and I'm just like, wow, because Because some things you kind of just like, hey, man, whatever, this just happened, it happened. But then it's like, wow, this ties in. They really set this up well, and they did it in such a subtle way. And I think that's what's so great about it. Like I said, I had low expectations coming into just watching the show. I was just like, whatever, Karate Kid series based on that. Like, what could they really do? But now I really see what was the reason for continuing it. And like I said, I don't really binge shows in like a day. I binged this show New Year's Eve and then today. I mean, it's 10 episodes. I watched 10. I mean, that doesn't really happen. I mean, this show is just done so well. And this last season, I mean, it's just, to me, it's just as good as the other seasons. I was like, wow, it sets up the next season so well. I'm like, what the hell is going to happen in this next season? And it's like, but like I said, it all comes back to the characters, the writing, the directing, the acting, and setting the stakes. Like your characters can be interesting and different, but they have to go through a journey. They have to grow. They have to have a catharsis. They have to make difficult choices. They have to be faced with conflict that is, that they have to make these difficult decisions based on, and like that all matters. If you don't have that stuff going on in your story or whatever, it's just not going to be interesting. No one's going to care, and it really shows. Like these are the fundamentals of if it's screenwriting or teleplay writing. It doesn't matter if it's on a small scale, a short film, a feature film, independent film, TV series. If you have really good people who care about their characters and stories and they know what they're doing, the writing is good, it doesn't matter. Like you can make a series based off of a old 80s show, 80s TV franchise, 80s movie franchise, and make a TV series that arguably, I mean, honestly, I think it's better. Probably because they got to go more in depth with these characters. But I would, like I said, I was not the first person lined up to be like, oh wow, Cobra Kai. I was hoping for a TV series based off of Karate Kid. I'm like, really? I'm like, did we even need this? Yes, we did, because it was really good. And I am excited for the next one. Man, the guys who created this, they were the guys who did Harold and Kumar. They wrote I know this. So like they know what they're doing. Like obviously, and Will Smith's production company, Overbrook Entertainment, they produced it. So big up to Will Smith. That's two for Will Smith, doing a good job, man, on the TV side and the movie side. Even if he's not in it, doesn't matter. But yeah, I just can't wait to see what's gonna happen next season. But like I said, if I binge this in like 2 days, I mean that tells you something. I don't do that with every show. So really good. I definitely advise. Highly recommend, man.
All right, well, there you go. High recommend from Jerome. I would definitely check it out. I'm a little behind with that series, I'll be honest. I think I'm still in season 1 when they were on the other, like you were saying, the other platform at the time. So I will definitely be sure to check it out because, I always see whenever like a new season starts, like my feed is normally like insane with like tons of Cobra Kai stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, did you see this? Did you see this happen? So, it seems like it's a show that definitely worth checking out. So I'll take a look at it for sure. I definitely enjoyed the original franchise. So it'll be cool to see. I have a general basis of what's happening right now, but it will be cool to actually dig deeper and see all the episodes to get an idea. Like I'm aware of like what characters return this season and all that. So based on like the promotional material, and I recognize them from the franchise. So it'd be cool to, revisit those characters again. And, as you said, dig deeper into, their lives and what's going on with it. All right. So, hopping into my number 3, and I apologize. I realized that I hadn't put this up. Sometimes you get super invested in, our explanations of a lot of, these shows or films that we love so much, but meant to include this in your top 5, but it's my top 3. And that is none other than Loki. So Disney Plus's Loki. So you commented on many of the things again, that I would have said. The only thing that I would add to that when it comes to, this show is just that idea that who would have thought that this particular series would have such importance for what it seems like this phase is going. You could arguably say that it sets the blueprint of like the rules, like everything you need to know when it comes to, the multiverse. and they're adhering to those rules going forward. I won't say in which projects. I'll let you guys discover that on your own, but they do follow through with a lot of the rules and things that they introduce in this series. And to have a series like this is pretty ambitious to have such connective tissue between your television and your film. And it's not to say that it wasn't attempted before. It was attempted when they were doing Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and that kind of, I feel like, fell apart. But now that you have Feige,
I didn't finish watching that.
Yeah, but now that you
really?
have Feige, but now that you have Feige actually in the creative chair, he's the chief creative officer of Marvel. Like, he oversees all creative elements of Marvel. Now there's more connective tissue, and there's more of a through line between all types of media versus there being kind of a disconnect between them. So, like I said, it's super ambitious. What they did with the show, it's crazy, some of the things that go down like in this series, and I feel like it's epic enough. A lot of the things were epic enough in this series where it could have warranted being an actual film. Like, honestly, it could have warranted being an actual film. A lot of the things that happen in this series. So I'm excited to see how the story carries on, because this is one of the few series that is getting a season 2. So we're going to see the story continue onwards. But it gives them a lot of license. Like, this show gives them a lot of license to do a lot of different things without interrupting the main timeline, so to speak, or the sacred timeline, as they've coined it, where they could do a bunch of different things with this show, and based on the rules that they have established for how the multiverse works, be able to have it work. And Marvel kind of had the idea of having their cake and eat it too, where they can still have their main storyline, but do a couple of different things. So, any final thoughts? As I said, I know you already, covered it for your number 5.
I would just say I'm glad they didn't make it a movie, because they wouldn't be able to get, in depth as, and like, that's what I'm saying. I think some of these supporting characters, lower characters, I'm glad they gave them a TV series. And it's like I said, was this 6 episodes? No, was this 10 episodes or 6?
No, it was not.
It was like, or 8 or something.
No, it was 6. I'll check it. I want to say it was 6,
because I know the Falcon, the Winter Soldier, I think that was 6. Yeah,
that was 6 too. But anyway, I would say WandaVision was the longest.
But to me, it's like it's like a miniseries. Like, this is showing the benefit of having a series, and these are like really miniseries. Except for, because this Loki's going to get a season 2, you could say, all right, it's more of a series, but it's still like a miniseries with at least a season 2. But to me, that's like a mini. It's like an extended film, and you're able to get away with certain things because of that. So, but no, you're right. Who would have thought that this series would be so important, and that it would be so much be like one of my favorites out of all the ones released this year. It was it's shocking, but that's what Marvel does, man. They do a great job of, like I said, now I'm just excited to watch I'm just as excited to watch all these other series coming out, from Marvel. So definitely.
I was going to say, let me be clear, about what I was commenting before. I'm saying in terms of the quality, like the quality of the show.
Oh yeah. But all of them have the quality though. That they could be some. That's why it's so great. They know. They're spending the money. So, but yeah, no, of course. I'm just saying, I'm glad it wasn't a movie, because, they were able to.
All right, dude. Go for it. Number 2.
I know, and this was hard to do, everybody, because these shows, a lot of these series. I will be honest, a lot of these series are kind of like neck and neck. But whatever. If we got to give them an actual order, numerologic order, a chronological order chronologically. I'm like too much champagne this morning. Sorry, man. Sorry, guys. It's kind of late too, but whatever. We're bringing in the new year, reflecting on 2021. My man. All right. I have to give it up to Dexter New Blood. I'm surprised you haven't seen this, man. Brandon, get on it, my man.
I'm tripping,
bro,
man.
You saying you're a horror guy, whatever? How are you not on this? dude. Okay, so this is the only thing, because Showtime, just like HBO, they still want to move in old school ways. You can't binge watch these shows, but it doesn't matter. When my Hulu says, "Oh, new episode, Dexter, New Blood," guess what? I watched that on the spot. You know why? Because this show is so good. It's funny because I remember when Dexter first came out. I remember I was in LA and I just kept seeing the poster of Dexter. I was just like, what the hell is this? This dude's a serial killer. I was like, what is this crap? And I kept hearing people like, nah, this show is really good. It's a serial. They're like, I was like, what is this? Just a show about a serial killer? And then people were like, nah, he's a serial killer who kills other serial killers or other criminals. I was like, that's kind of interesting. And then it's funny because after I got done watching all my other shows or whatever they're done, I was like, oh, let me check this out. And I just got hooked to Dexter, and I just love the show. I was just like, man, this show is so good. Now, and I kept following every season. I mean, I'm like, and Michael C. Hall, also a shout out. I got a shout out to another NYU alumnus. He went to NYU, so go ahead. Michael C. Hall. He's great, man. I mean, he's been in other stuff, but he's forever going to be known as Dexter because, I mean, the dude is Dexter. I mean, he's just perfectly cast as this guy. I maybe I'm in the minority or something, but I didn't have a problem with how the series ended. Okay, granted, it could have probably been better or whatever, but to me, I was like, how else were we going to end the show? Whatever. But also, I'm kind of glad that people made a big stink for whatever reason. You know, people, you can't satisfy everybody, and people always get a hate. Like, whatever, we're gonna have arguments all day long. But hey, what we got is Dexter New Blood. I mean, you know, I guess it's kind of like when Eminem had Revival and people hated on that. Then we got Kamikaze and then his other album. So it's kind of good. It's kind of good when some people think something sucks or is not as good, you come back with something even better. And that's what this show is. If it's gonna just be a miniseries, okay, I'm sure it's gonna end great, and I'll be happy with that. But honestly, I mean, I think there's 2 more episodes left. I can see this continuing, but maybe, you know, like I said, maybe it doesn't need to, and that's fine. I'm good. And I know this is supposed to be like a, you know, I guess it's to make up for the fans who were hating on the original ending. But man, this show really adds to the series, and you know, what's great about this show, just like the original series, is just, you know, you really get into this character of Dexter and his mindset and his origins and his background. But then also, like, you really, like I said, if it was just him being a serial killer, just killing people, whatever, and they didn't really go into why he was a serial killer or why, like, I feel like if this was like a movie, it probably would have been harder to really care about him. I mean, it probably, if you had the right filmmaker, maybe. But because you get to go into so deep into his psyche of why, you know why he does what he does, and how how his, you know, his mentor before was able to help him channel that. And now he's, you know, like I said, he's a serial killer, but he's at least doing it for good. So, you know, for the most part, he's more like a vigilante. I mean, you could say he's like the serial killer version of the Punisher, pretty much. That's what makes it interesting. And it's, I mean, it's kind of like I said, it's kind of like a Daredevil or like a Batman. If you didn't really think about it, I mean, he has one life throughout the day, and then he's also a serial killer. I mean, okay, Batman's not a serial killer, but Bruce Wayne, Batman, I mean, it's that dichotomy of like you have 2 lives. And, you know, they just do it so well, and they tie everything in so well, and the supporting characters are also great. What I loved about the original series too is, like, it was also set in Miami. You had a lot of Latinos too, so it was pretty diverse too, and that was really good. And you got to see Miami. That location made it its own. This one, you have it's in Iron Lake or whatever. I think it's I don't know. I think it's Oregon or whatever. I don't know, but whatever. They changed the location. And instead of being the warm beaches and nice area, you know, sexy city of Miami, you know, you're pretty much in the middle of nowhere, and you have, but there are, you know, but that also affects the storyline and affects the characters, and also, like I said, if you saw that in the series, you know why he's there too. I mean, I don't want to spoil it for anyone who didn't see the series, but whatever, you need to go watch it. It takes off from where, you know, from what happened from the previous series. The original series, and they just do such a good job of the creator. You know, creator does such a good job of just adding to what happened and where this character is going, and what would happen based on what happened at the end of the series finale for the original Dexter series. So like I said, it's not over yet. There's 2 more episodes, but I have a feeling it's probably going to end well, and I mean, like satisfying in a satisfying way. But like I said, I mean, so far it's amazing. I mean, it's a really good continuation of what happened in the original series, and like I said, the supporting characters are great too. And like I said, one last thing I'll say is just it's not just a concept and then the writing and then what he's going through. It's also the themes within it too, and that, like I said, that's what makes it layered and like gives it depth. And there's so much that you're seeing from, like, you're seeing it from his perspective, from Dexter's perspective, but also you're seeing like how people interact with him, and like I said, there's definitely a lot of commentary there too throughout the film. I mean, throughout the series, and that's what makes it interesting. The more complex it is, the more nuanced, the more layered it is. It just makes it a better series, and I was like I said, I was surprised that like, hey, they were even doing this, but it's been satisfying so far, and I just can't wait to see how it ends. And I'm surprised you still haven't seen it yet, man. You need to watch it.
So. Yeah, I'm surprised too, man. Like the original run of Dexter, I watched that show religiously. I used to watch, like, I used to be the first one to watch it every week that it premiered. Every Sunday that it premiered, I had to watch it. As a matter of fact, I have to check in my storage, or say in my attic, that I actually have the box set, I believe. Yeah, I have the box set of season 1 and season 2. So like, because there was so much that was happening during that time too. There's a whole other element, even a meta element to that, where, brother and sister were married in real life. So you had that whole.
I thought that was funny. Hey, but what do you think? If you're acting with someone all that time, you probably hook up with somebody else.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, it's just crazy. Like, you marry your sibling, but your sibling on the show. I mean, I know it's make believe in the show, but still, like, that dynamic just seems kind of like, it just seems kind of throws your head for a loop. But anyway, going off topic, but I am super excited to check out this show. I just haven't gotten around to it because there has been, so much content that has come out over the course of this year, and keeping track of it and staying on top of it, that just based on circumstances, like, I haven't gotten around to Dexter, and like, it is like at the top of my list, even among all the other projects and things that you have, recommended. I'm already well versed with Dexter, and the fact that I'll be honest with you, like, I didn't really feel how they closed that story off. So, I'm willing to give it another shot to see, if they're able to, redeem, that original series finale. Because like,
would you want him to kill him off? You want him to be in prison? I'm like, what else?
I just felt like it is.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm just saying, just based off of what they could have done, like, it just fell a little flat, where I feel like the stakes weren't that big based on it being a series finale. It just felt like another season the way it closed. That's just me.
I mean, that's fair, but I just felt like the other ways would have just, like I said, I felt like there were only like 3 ways they could have ended it.
So like, I'll give you an example. Like, if I'm talking about a series finale, I don't know I can't remember if you watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
No, I didn't watch that.
So like, but you have the general gist of the series, right? I'm assuming.
I mean, I know it's based off of the movie and the whole idea of, like, she's a vampire.
So like, you have this whole idea of Sunnydale, the place where she resides, and she fights all the demons, vampires, what have you, all these different species, supernatural creatures. It's on top of this supernatural kind of like magnet that's called the Hellmouth, that actually attracts on like some supernatural level, it attracts, different creatures to that area because of the aura or whatever it has on those creatures, but it resides under the city or under that town. And in the series finale, we just have like an all-out brawl. We have like an Avengers caliber like brawl, like, just happens at the end to close it off. And I'm like, okay, this is how you close out, a series. Like it, you have the stakes that are raised. Like, some people don't make it out. Like, it, I was satisfied with how that ended. Like, even if I know that they continue to understand that they've continued it further with like comic books and things like that, but I don't even need to see the comic books, because I was perfectly satisfied with how they ended that, because I feel like it brought everything full circle on how they closed that story. So
Yeah, but different show though, man. Different show. I got you. But
I'm just saying,
it's
raising the stakes. Like I just didn't feel like it. Just felt kind of meh. Like the way it ended, meh. Versus,
I just don't know how else they were gonna. I don't know how else they were gonna end it though, because it's like it would have been. Well, anyway, that's another conversation. But I'm just saying, like, to me, there's only really 3 ways to end this series, and like, I don't know how else they were gonna do it. But
go whatever. For it. Number 2.
Anyway, no, that was number.
Oh, number. I'm sorry. Yeah,
was that number 2? Yeah. So okay, yes. I know this was on your. Wait, did you? Oh yeah, you haven't. Oh yeah, mine. Okay.
One second, dude.
No, we're at number.
Give me 1 sec.
I'm on number 1.
Yep. All right, go for it, dude.
And I know. Okay, so hey, I put this as number 1. It's funny. It's hard for me to put anything for the TV series. It's hard to say what's number 1, but I'll say What If. The reason why I'll put What If there, out of all the Marvel shows and also just period, is 2 reasons. It surprised me. I mean, even though I was a fan of the comics because I actually had a few of the comics. I remember when it came out, and I always remembered there was some really good issues of like what is it? There was like What If Mr. Sinister's created the X-Men. I thought that was really cool. That would be really cool if they did that. And there was one where like there was one scene in one of the issues of the comics where I think like they killed Wolverine because so I think it was a Hulk or someone just threw him out into space and he just died because he had no oxygen. I was like, this is really interesting how they're talking about these different scenarios. So I was like, I always was talking to some of my friends about this. I mean, I don't know, maybe we didn't talk about it as much before, but I was like, it would be cool if they finally did that in the MCU. And then I remember when Kevin Feige was mentioning all these series and everything, and he was like, we're doing What If. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. I was like, I know obviously they're not able to do at that time, I think they weren't able to do like the X-Men or use those characters, obviously because of the deal with Fox wasn't completed yet. But I was like, this is good that they're doing this because there's some really amazing stories that they could do. And then when Kevin Feige was also saying like they're using the same actors from the live action series within the MCU, I was like, wow, this is even more awesome that they're doing that because they could have just had anyone else do the voices, but this is the quality that
connective tissue again.
This is the quality that Marvel Studios brings to its films and its TV shows, and you can tell like they authentically really care about these stories, and I really appreciate that. So then finally, I'm watching What If, and I'm like, like the first episode with about Captain Carter, like what if Captain Carter, she becomes the first Agent Carter becomes Captain America instead. She gets the serum. And I was like, wow, this is pretty good. I was like, wow, yeah, this is a pretty decent one. I was like, this is good. But that was just the first episode. Then when they got to the one, man, they had one with T'Challa becoming Star-Lord. I was like, wow, they really were thinking of some very interesting scenarios that I wasn't even thinking about. I was like, this is really good. And like you have all the actors. Man, you know what? Whatever. Y'all should watch this damn show. These are the episodes. These are all anthology ones. Okay, put spoilers up. I don't give a shit. I gotta talk about it. But anyway, I won't give away all the other ones. But they have so many other really good scenarios that I wasn't even thinking about, but they worked really well. I mean, I will say that there were some storylines where I was kind of like, I was like, wait a second, this doesn't really completely make sense because I'm like, why didn't they do this in the movies? But whatever. And I'm not gonna mention that one. You're gonna have to watch it. But you know what I'm talking about, Brandon. Let's say there's one with Ultron in it. But anyway, but what was great is just all these different scenarios I just wasn't even thinking about. And then like I said, these are, I think they're like 30 to 40 minute episodes. To make that,
yeah,
the fact that they were able to make these like alternate scenario episodes work so well, and also make you feel like you're watching almost like watching one of the movies, because what they did so well is that they would start off a lot of episodes from from exact scenes from the movies that you've seen before. Yeah, and then you're just like, yeah, and it's because they're using the same actors. You're like, wow, this is really cool. We're seeing that same scenario play out, but then it's like, boom, they hit you with like a curveball in the storytelling. You're like, wow. and then you're like, I didn't think about this, and I'm like, this is crazy. But they can get away with it also because it's animated too, and it's like, it's called What If. I thought that was so genius how they did that. And like I said, there's so many episodes where they take the stories that happen in the MCU and just put them in a totally different direction, and they work so well. And what's also great, like I said, everything has a purpose. And I like how they're using Jeffrey Wright as the Watcher. He's narrating everything, but like as you keep watching the episodes, you see how that's important too. And I mean, I'm not gonna spoil everything, but like you were saying, you watch the series, it's just as connected to like the Loki series as some movies that have come out in the last year now, that also were on our list. And it just shows every show, regardless of what they're doing, and from Marvel Studios, is very important. It's connected, and I will say, I mean, I didn't completely predict it, but if you watch What If, I will just say, if you watch What If, and then when you watch the new Spider-Man movie, you stay after the credits, you kind of have a sense of, oh wow, one of the episodes actually, they're actually connecting to another movie. They're actually giving you a preview of how one of these other movies is going to play out. I mean, we don't know if it's exactly the same. But you can put spoilers up all day long. But I'm just saying, pay attention to these episodes, because I feel like I'm wondering if, well, I don't know how the sequence of how these films were maybe written or whatever, but I'm wondering also if Kevin Feige and MCU Marvel Studios were looking at like the reaction to some of these episodes and probably thinking, okay, we should do this for real. We should maybe do some of this for real in some of the other movies. So who knows? But all I can say is like some of the episodes are also going to seem to be previewing elements of what's going to happen in some of the other films.
In another upcoming film.
Or they might be just redoing some of them. I'm not exactly, but some of it, I feel like they're actually just like, hey, we're going to do this for real now, and maybe play on it. But
and
that's why you got to watch these. You got to watch it.
You're not off the mark in thinking that, they're kind of assessing how people are responding to some of these episodes, because currently Doctor Strange, has been doing a lot of reshoots, and the purpose of these
put the spoilers up. Put the spoilers.
There you go. Okay.
You're telling me I was spoiling, brother.
Hey, so like the purpose of them doing these reshoots is to add some other elements into it. So that's all I'll say. But like you're absolutely right on the mark in that, like, there is a reason, there is something that they have going based off of what's happened in the series and how people have been responding to it. So you're on the right track there. All right, so my top two. My number two.
Did you just not do yours before? Whatever. All right, so you just do.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. So my number two is a spoiler alert: the same series. So What If? That was my number two. I don't think I really need to say much else. Jerome covered pretty much everything. I guess the thing that is the only minor thing that I'll say is that I remember how the comic series touched into a lot of these crazy stories of what if this happened? What if this character fought this character? Or what if this event happened and this event didn't happen? How would it affect the character? And that part of it just overall was really fascinating to do. I never thought one of the stories that's like a really popular one in those what if stories is what I'll say. Okay. Here we go. It's not really a spoiler, but I'll just put it up there just for fidelity's sake. But there is one episode that is like a fan favorite among what if Marvel stories, and I would say it's one of the coolest stories like that they have out of this one, and it actually makes an appearance again when they fight a character in one of the episodes. Like the elements of that episode spills into another episode. That's all I'll say. So, like What If was my number two. My number one, you guys are probably shocked, like, what? It's not a superhero.
Oh yeah. Hey, well, I'll say one. I just want to say one more thing about What If, just because we're on. I know I'm being short.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
One thing also I really respect, and it just shows they know that Marvel knows their characters really well, is even when they have like, and I've seen some fans try to criticize some episodes, but I was like, to me, it just tells me they're not paying attention. Even when they do these what if scenarios with some of the characters, they're still pretty consistent with how that character is supposed to act, but in a different scenario. And I was very impressed with that. I mean, there, like I said, there is an episode where like some of the logistical stuff doesn't make sense. I was like, oh man, this doesn't make sense because they didn't do this in the movie. I was like, this is kind of ridiculous, but whatever, I forgave it. But when it comes to the character traits and the consistency of the characters, like there's one I will say with Tony Stark. Watch that one. You probably said you saw it. I'll say there's one in that one where the character is in there. He does. They show the character in a different light or whatever, but he's still consistent in like his
how his character would behave,
how he do it. And I remember someone criticized. I saw online. They were like, "But why didn't they make him he should have been a good guy." Blah blah blah. And I'm like, but that's not his character.
He didn't go through that experience. Like
I'm just like, bro.
That, you know,
I'm like. They're not trying to make him. It only makes sense if you're gonna have the same character purposely, like be a different, like maybe have more than one character. Wow, that's another episode. But more than one character playing a different version of the character. That's different. But if you just have a character who's in a different scenario and they have different things play out, that doesn't mean they're still gonna be the same character. They're still gonna make similar decisions, but in a different way. And I really respect how they did that with the writing. I was like, they know their characters. Because it's not going to make sense for this character I'm talking about in that episode with Iron Man to not do what he did. Like, why wouldn't he? And you guys should watch it and you'll see what I'm talking about. And you have a problem with it, like, to me, that tells me you don't understand that character. That's all it is. It has nothing to do with, why didn't he? You know, I've seen some stupid comments online, but whatever. Everyone has stupid comments to make because they hate on, they don't like, everybody has an opinion, but I'm like, why don't you make your version of that movie? Go make your version then if you don't like it.
Well, I'll close with this and say that, you know, to your point, it was really fascinating to see how just the influence of a character can change the whole dynamic of how the ancillary characters around them behave and what happens to them and how they function in the world. So like there's one of them in there where I'm like, yeah, I guess so, because of how that character is. Like, yeah, they would have a very positive influence on everybody just by virtue of the type of person that they are. I won't say who it is, but you guys can find out who I'm talking about. But it was just fascinating to see that, where you kind of think about it and you're like,
I know which one you're talking about.
Oh, yeah, I guess so. Like, if he is plugged,
I know what you're talking about. You're talking about the second episode. You're talking about the second episode. Yeah, no, that was good. You're right. That's another example.
If that character is plugged into that scenario, yeah, he would have a good influence on other people because that's just the type of person that he is. That's just the type of, you know, personality that he has, that he draws people to them and he brings out the best in them. So, yeah.
Yep, and that's why the show is great. All right, go on. Sorry.
All right, number one. So my number one, spoiler alert, is horror related. My number one was the Netflix miniseries known as Midnight Mass. All right, so with this series, you know, it is a series that, you know, follows a small town where you have, you know, this priest who, you know, he goes on, I guess you can say, a sabbatical where he goes to the Holy Land, and mysteriously, you know, we get the impression that he doesn't, you know, come back. Now there is, you know, something that happens in the story, and I won't, you know, divulge what that is, that gives us a revelation as to, you know, what has happened to him. But I would just say, just in general, you know, this miniseries provides like some interesting conversations when it comes to, you know, religion. And this is the, you know, the poster here. It brings up some interesting conversations when it comes to religion and how, you know, when you're having faith, sometimes you so blindly believe in it that you kind of overlook a lot of the things that are kind of questionable about it. And so that dichotomy that they use with religion and the horrific component that is introduced into that town was very fascinating and very intriguing how they executed it. So I know Jerome, you haven't seen this. This was done by the gentleman who created many of the other, awesome horror series that have been on Netflix. And I'm brain farting on his name. Give me 1 second. But while I'm pulling that up, your thoughts on the show. I remember that you said you hadn't seen it yet.
There's already like a priority list of. Oh, sorry. Did I? Oh,
yeah, I apologize.
Okay.
Go ahead. Yeah, it was a little glitch.
Yeah, no, what I was just saying is, no, I completely understand. Like I said, if you say it's pretty good, like I said, I'll go check it out. It's just tough because there's so many shows, and I'm trying to just, gotta prioritize. But I hear you. Yeah, I'm always open to watching something different. It's just a little easier with movies because you're like, all right, it's just one movie. But with a show, it's like you really got to invest the time. Yeah. So, but no, I mean, eventually, hey, man, I finally, like I said, Succession finally ended its season. Insecure finished that show. There were some other shows that just finished. I'm just like, oh, what's next to watch? So then I got back on to Narcos. So I'm like, let me finish watching Mike Flanagan, by the way. I made time for Narcos now. And Dexter has 2 more episodes. But guess what? Right when that ended, it's like Cobra Kai came in. So I was like, boom, gotta watch that. And then there's, I have a bunch of shows I try to watch, for different reasons. So yeah, eventually when I have to figure it out. But I will say, like, man, good God, Netflix just keeps cranking them out. Because, I mean, every time I go on Netflix, I'm like, it says new episodes or something. I'm like, wait a second, we're there. And I just realized I was like, oh, Ozark is going to be coming back soon, too. So I was like, damn, I got to.
The person I was looking for was Mike Flanagan, by the way. Like, he's Mike Flanagan. Done, okay, cool. A lot of like impressive series as well as TV shows. Like, just to give you an idea of like his filmography. As I said, he did Haunting of Hill House. That was on Netflix. He also directed Dr. Sleep. He directed Gerald's Game. And he's directed, far more stuff, whether it's Ouija, Origin of Evil. So like he has a great feel for the horror genre, unlike, many other of his contemporaries, where it's not only creepy and like, suspenseful, but he a lot of times digs deeper than a normal horror story would and really delves deep into the characters and of his stories. And the thing that's cool too, I want to say it's kind of like, mind you, I don't watch it, but I do understand that they use this aesthetic, is that it's kind of like American Horror Story, where he a lot of times enjoys recycling the same like ensemble of actors because he likes working with, folks that he's worked with before. So, you'll see a lot of recognizable faces from a lot of the films and the shows that he's done in this project. But still, with that aside, like, yeah, like I can't recommend it enough in terms of like what it has to say about, just his commentary on like theology of religion and how, what our, people's relationship with religion is, and should you blindly, believe in certain things versus, using your common sense or using your logic in some cases. So yeah, highly recommend that show.
Definitely eventually check it out. One thing I want to know though is, I know since we already went through everything, we went through the list, so you guys know.
Yes.
Real quick, what are like the shows and the movies you're anticipating this year that you're most looking forward to? And it'd be funny to see like later on what we actually think is great. I'll just go real quick.
Go ahead.
I'll go real quick. It's obviously the Marvel ones: Doctor Strange and the Multiverse and Madness. Morbius is coming up. It's coming up around my birthday, yeah. I would say, but the Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness, Thor, Batman, Love and Thunder, Batman. That's true. March. We have Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, and they pushed back the other one, so I don't know But what else is coming out that you could think of?
I think you named a good.
Oh wait, The Flash. The Flash is coming out.
Flash. That's right. Yeah, that comes out like at the end of the year. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and Batgirl is also coming. Isn't that coming out? I'll be on HBO Max, I think.
I believe so. I'll check it really quick. But yeah, I mean, we're gonna be, to say the least, we'll be pretty spoiled when it comes to like superhero films.
But out of all of those, which ones are you? Which movie are you probably the most anticipated? You're most excited to watch next year?
I would probably say the Batman.
Really? Wow.
Like I really, because
that's surprising. I think.
Yeah. I mean, maybe in a close second would maybe be Multiverse of Madness, just to see what all the elements that they bring into that story. But I'm a big fan of Matt Reeves as a filmmaker, and what he's done thus far in the films that he's directed. With the Planet of the Apes, really films, and he did the remake of Let the Right One In with Let Me In, that dealt with like vampires. Again, horror story, guys. Like I like his directing style and the voice that he uses when he's telling a lot of his stories. So I'm interested to see what he does with the Batman. I mean, from what I understand, he's really going to dig deeper into that detective aspect that he, in many interviews and promotional material that he's been featured in, he's discussed focusing or delving deeper into that aspect of Batman, which we haven't gotten in a Batman film thus far.
Or that
or let me be more specific.
That
we haven't
detail,
gotten into it as detail, yeah.
Or it's like, making more fair, of a film noir kind of, yeah.
Because maybe. To be fair, like you have small portions of it. If we're being technical, you have small portions of it in Batman Forever,
the original one.
When he had the Riddler. No, I'm saying,
but also in the original one. But also in the original one with Batman, he's like he figured out the chemical issue, with the products for the Joker. I mean, that was very small. And then also
even with the Penguin, with the returns, with the whole scheme that he was doing with the being the mayor and all that. So like the political.
And then the Dark Knight. I mean, he still had to figure out the Joker was what he was playing. I'm just saying, it just wasn't like focused on
small component versus it being
as opposed to the TV show, the cartoon animated series. He actually was like, and maybe this will be more like that, but.
Yeah, so we'll see.
And wait, Black Adam, is that coming out? No, that's 2023. Or is that coming out in the fall?
No, I think you're right. I want to say that.
Shazam 2, isn't that coming out next year too?
Yeah, I want to say Black Adam. Let me just check that super fast. I want to say yes. And it's funny, like
I know I used to know
all of these. I used to know all of these off the top of my head, but
they keep pushing stuff back. They kept pushing stuff back.
They keep pushing a lot of these films back, so it's hard to really keep track on top of them. But yeah, Black Adam. Yeah, Black Adam comes out next year. Yeah.
And what about I think they pushed back. Or is Avatar 2 coming out next year, or they pushed it back? I think they.
So Avatar 2,
2023. Maybe.
No. Avatar 2, from what I understand, is coming because
the fall.
Yeah, it comes in the winter. The winter of next year.
Well, we'll see what.
But they're doing kind of like a 2-year gap. So like they're
doing because there's 4 more he made.
Yeah. No, the only reason why I know this is
I saw them schedule.
Yeah, well, I was saying shout out to one of the actors I moderated at Rhode Island. Shout out Rhode Island. Was fortunate to moderate. He's one of the main characters there in Avatar, and he divulged what the release dates were for the upcoming.
Well, I mean, it's online. I mean, they have it. They had to change it. Obviously, they push it back. But it's funny though. I would just say for the DC movies, I'm probably most excited to see the Flash because I want to see how they interconnect everything with Batman. I'm not saying that Batman movie probably is pretty good, but I guess for me, I'm just like, there's been so many Batman movies. It's like, yeah, this is cool to be a different version of it, but I'm like, I want to see these other characters do their thing. And the same with Marvel. I'm really excited for probably the Doctor Strange film and the other ones too. But I want to see what the other aspects. Honestly, it's funny.
I'll be honest, I am excited for Thor. Like, I'm interested to see what they do with Thor the God Butcher. Like, I like that villain. That villain is really cool.
But honestly, I will be honest though. I'm probably more excited for some of the shows coming on next year because they're different characters. I really want to see what they do with She-Hulk, and I really want to see what's up with Moon Knight because I'm not gonna lie, like I love all the main characters that they've already established, and they've already been introduced. But unless a main character is doing something really significantly different, I feel like I like seeing the new characters that I want to see and see how they translate that to the show. Yeah, because the things with She-Hulk, like I said, I've already read. I mean, there probably is a good chance that Daredevil is going to pop up in there, and obviously the Hulk is going to be in there. So it's like, I want to see that world. See where that goes. And Moon Knight, we haven't seen. I mean, this is the first time we're going to see Moon Knight. So. I'm excited to see and how they're going to connect him, in the universe. So I don't know. It's hard to say, and I'm sure there's some other movies I'm not even thinking about that are going to come out. But yeah, man. But Shazam 2, if that's coming out next year, I'm excited to see that. So
I'll have to see more of that film. Like, and
the
I'll
first
be
one was
honest
great.
with you.
I like that one.
Like, I know I'm gonna have an unpopular opinion. I didn't hate the first Shazam. I just didn't love it as much as a lot of people did. I thought it was still a good film, but like I didn't love it as deeply as a lot of people did. So, as I said, I need to see more, like another, like a teaser trailer of that film. I know, like when they did the DC fandom, they just had kind of like a sizzle reel. So, I look forward to seeing, what they have in terms of like a actual, like legit trailer from that film to kind of make a better decision of how I feel or my anticipation for it. But right now, it's like, man.
And lastly, sorry, we do this one real quick. Lastly, shows.
Yeah,
I mean, we're finally getting Stranger Things season 4. Was it season 4? I think that's what it is.
Yes.
And Ozark is coming back, so I'm excited to see those. And what else?
And we have Billions.
And then all the shows, all the Marvel shows
as well. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, but I mean, the Marvel shows. I think I'm probably that's what I'm most excited to see, like on TV or film, like Marvel related. Yeah, there's probably some there I'm not even thinking about that are gonna pop up, and there'll probably be some pleasant. Oh yeah, I forgot. Jordan Peele has a movie. Nope. I'm hoping that's gonna be good.
Yeah.
Because I love Get Out. I thought Us was different in its own thing, but I wasn't like, I thought that could have been better. But at least it was original. But nope, I have no idea what that's about. And I think Jordan Peele, he's one of the few filmmakers that actually has the potential to keep bringing to continue being consistent with like original ideas, like and make them entertaining. Because to me, like Christopher Nolan is the best at doing that right now, and he does it on a grand scale. But I feel like Jordan Peele is the only other guy right now that could, if this movie's good, then I think he'll be solidified in that space. And also as a minority filmmaker, like and then from a low budget standpoint, like I love it because it's like to me that trumps everything. It's like if you can make a low budget film and then it's original and it does well, like that gives hope. That gives hope to all independent filmmakers doing their thing, because not everyone's going to get the big budgets that Christopher Nolan gets, even though he kills it with the big budget films that are also like amazing and original, or most of them are. So anyway,
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, man. I'll send it off to you to close.
So that was. So hey, we had bringing in the new year. See you later.
I wasn't expecting it to be 2.5 hours, but like I said, we get passionate when it comes to.
I finished that champagne. I just finished that bottle, man. So hey, that's what you got to do. You got to finish. When you're quarantined at home, bringing in the new year, you got to enjoy it. So whatever. But anyway, thanks for joining us, checking in on us, and seeing how everything is. And we like sharing these opinions. We continue to do it, and you guys got to let us know what you want us to share too. But yeah, if you want to check me out, you want to like, follow, subscribe, you'll find me on Instagram and Twitter at JWBourgeois21. For Movers and Shakers, you can find us on Instagram at Movers Shakers Unlimited. On Twitter and Facebook at Move and Shake UNLTD. Obviously, you can subscribe to us on youtube.com/Movers Shakers Unlimited. There's the Instagram one. Yep, Movers Shakers Unlimited. And also, if you want to be a super fan and support us, you can support us on patreon.com/Movers Shakers Unlimited. So definitely like, follow, subscribe, tell your friends, family. Like one of our goals this year, like I said, we're trying to reach 1,000 subscribers. So like definitely, if you want to subscribe, tell your friends, family about it, and you like the reviews that we have and the events that we're covering, feel free to share it and support and give us feedback, like Brandon says. And like I said, this is just the review section, and this is just us talking about news and stuff. We're also going to have some really good episodes about some really fun events. I know Brandon, he's going to be flying out. He's going to be brave and fly out while this Omicron's happening.
Yeah. So I can make the announcement that I will be in Vegas for CES. So excited about that. And, giving you kind of the lowdown of all the, latest in technology that we have happening going forward, from the present into the future. It's a show that I've always wanted to attend, and I've just never gotten around to, making the effort to go. And this is the one time that I am going. I'm super excited to, share some of the things that will be happening at the show. This be on the lookout, not just here with the live streams. I'll try to do some interview live streams via Facebook. And then I'll, also be sharing some cool, like, little mini videos of some demos or of some sights and sounds via the Instagram as well. So be on the lookout for that also. But yeah, other than that, as I mentioned before, I'm your host, Brandon Choi, host and co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. You can find me at Brandon Choi ENT on Twitter. And you can also find me at Brandon Choi _ENT on Instagram. Other than that, be safe out there. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.
Peace. And Happy New Year 2022.